My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireball's Dispatch, our monthly Q&A, topic discussion, listener response, episode announcement, all kinds of things. It is all podcast to all people.
Mixed Grill, the last one of the year. December, baby. And what a year it's been.
What a long December. It's been a long December.
Yeah, I'm not going to reward that. Not going to reward that.
Hey, you know what? If you don't count those crows, you'll never know when you have more.
Yeah,
count ye crows while ye may. So they say. Let's get started. Here. I'll read Rob's question. Rob says, random battles, force grinding, limited saves. All these archaic mechanics have their defenders, but there's one mechanic I can think of where gamer Americans have crossed the aisle, locked arms, and reached a post-9/11 style bipartisan consensus. QTEs suck. Thank God they're gone. Can you guys, even a tiny bit, defend the humble QTE? Is there ever a time and a place for them? Were they ever used well? Hey, so, like the supermassive games obviously do QTEs just fine.
Mm-hmm.
That, in my mind, what QTEs do top out as like fine.
Yeah.
You know, they're within that world, there are ones that are better than others. Like you can make them resemble what's happening on the screen a little bit and make them intuitive. They're still a little bit, I'm not convinced it's the best solution.
Right.
For any of those things. It just kind of bottoms out as fine and something to do while you're waiting for the more meaningful narrative choices.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I also think that the QTEs that are not just button presses, so the move this marker to a specific point, like those kind of things are a little bit better.
Yeah.
Than just like, tap R2 at the right time or press in this direction.
Yeah. Or the stay calm ones.
Yes.
I mean, every one of those has actually been pretty good. The Until Dawn, keep the controller entirely still. Like the little rhythm pressing in the Dark Pictures anthology. Like, I think those are all good because that is actually playing along with the tension of the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, they're still kind of good on the curve. It still doesn't feel like it's the best way to emulate the thing. If I have to be doing something with my hands while I'm doing this narrative choice movie, that is a better choice than others.
What there needs to be is some kind of Bluetooth strap that goes around your neck.
Okay. You got me already.
Some kind of remote control collar.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
and you mean the mom from Malcolm in the Middle could have it?
Yeah.
Remote. Okay.
Yeah. And just when something's supposed to be tense, just ratchet that bad boy close.
Yeah. Just a little bit of tension there.
A little bit of pressure.
The worst ones are when it is standing in for action.
Yeah,
like your character is doing something fucking incredible and you're just tapping a button. Yeah, that's the dumbest shit imaginable.
Yeah, I hate that. I'm glad we're past it. I just think that...
are we? Because my understanding is that's a big part of Final Fantasy 16 is you do a bunch of that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
You do that and watch a movie. I don't, I wish we were even more past it.
Yeah. And I can name egregious examples, but like the best thing that you can do is make them sparing and make them fit into the environment, right? So the killer is trying to stab you in the face and you're struggling it over, and the button you need to press is superimposed over the knife because that's where you're looking, right?
Sure.
The very worst example is Indigo Prophecy / Fahrenheit.
Yeah,
right,
where they're not related at all.
Yeah,
I would also say don't use them in games where you have other methods of input.
Yeah.
Big flashback to the Final Fantasy 9 tap summons.
Yeah.
Those things where you build the meter by furiously tapping the button. Like, we can't let you skip this.
No.
You got to tap the button, but don't tap it now. And that's somehow making your little Alexander stronger.
Yeah. No, thank you.
QTEs are joke design. It's bad.
Yeah.
In general. So I'm still on the good side of the aisle with all the other gamers.
Yeah.
Reaching a bipartisan style consensus.
Writing it down here. Rob thinks QTEs are 9/11. All right.
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks, Rob.
So Fitty Spence says, "Hey folks, been lurking for years and I'm happy to be a member of Patreon. What are some games for when you are anxious? I graduated law school, passed the bar, and now I'm making my way into the world as a baby lawyer. Congratulations."
Oh, baby lawyer.
Yeah.
New on Peacock.
I've been experiencing a great deal of work anxiety during this transition. Working out, eating right, and sleeping help, but I love games and have not found one that eases me during my free time. Would enjoy hearing your stress relief games and any other strategies that help. Man, just Tetris, baby. Go back to Tetris.
Tetris is real good for this. I think that playing like a comfortable thing is usually good, like no surprises.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to learn new things. I don't want to meet new characters when I'm stressed. Like that comes to TV, which is the most passive medium in the world. Yeah. I don't want to meet a whole cast.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm feeling stressed. So I will play a game I know. Either characterless or just something I just know very well. Like going through a sequence, Open Mike Eagles, like, the way that he phrased Dark Souls 3, going through a comfortable sequence can help with this. So like playing Super Mario World, even if I just end up playing the first couple of worlds, helps if I'm real stressed.
Yeah.
Familiar music. So I would say like treat yourself to airport rules. Like what sounds good? Just do what sounds good and don't overthink it.
Yeah. It's probably the way to go, I think.
Yeah. And puzzle games are great for that kind of thing. No characters, really no learning curve. It's just a practice curve.
Yeah. I say Tetris, but could be Lumines or whatever.
Yeah. If you're a Puyo sicko, Puyo it up.
Yeah. If your brain is completely alien to me.
Yeah. If you're a Dr. Mario. Yeah. And congratulations on becoming a baby lawyer.
Yeah.
Baby law is an underexplored field. Jonathan Scratch says, during the Doom Eternal WAF, Gary called it a first-person character action game, and that got me thinking about non-standard formats to popular genres. What would a first-person RTS look like? What about an over-the-shoulder fighting game? I have no idea if this idea has any conversational legs, but it could be a fun thought experiment. Stay cool, fellow humans.
A first-person RTS, like there's a mod, a total conversion mod for Half-Life. It was multiplayer called Natural Selection that worked that way. Where you were controlling one side was humans, but the Zerg side, you were commanding like you were sending little dudes, little bugs at the human side, So that works a little bit there. And then an over-the-shoulder fighting game that exists. I think no man, Injustice isn't that. Definitely God Hand is an over-the-shoulder fighting game. Yeah.
Well, it's a very specifically a character action game.
Well, yeah.
God Hand. Like in a versus fighting game, like that crab fighting game, they're like joke fighting games. There's one where crabs fight and that's an over the shoulder fighting game, like a 1-on-1 fighting game. The trick with a lot of these, I think, is that they suck. Yeah. People do them and they're just not very good. Like first person RTSs are hard to think about, but they keep trying third person RTSs and they all suck. The RTS part sucks.
Yeah. People sing Pikmin's praise. People losing their mind for Pikmin 4.
And even then, that's not really third person. It's kind of overhead.
Yeah.
It's like semi-third person, but you can take a tactical view of it pretty easily. Yeah. Like, you look at a Sacrifice or a Brutal Legend or something, and it just doesn't like work as well. I know there are people who love those, but I would rather just have all the information, even if I do have a hero unit. So stuff like this always feels experimental to me. Big shout out to a version of this I play at Duckstream, which is Your Only Move is Hustle, which is a turn-based fighting game. That is interesting. That I will never play fucking again. I can't. It's getting a lot of buzz. I hated it. I hated playing it. You should look at a screenshot of it, Cole. Your Only Move is Hustle or Yomi Hustle. It's called one or the other.
Your Only Move is Hustle. Looks like those old Zhao Zhao Flash animations, like the stick figure fight kind of things. That's a lot.
But then look at the interface. Look at the bottom.
That's quite a bit.
It's like a flight sim.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting idea that I fucking hate. Yeah. And that tends to be how I feel about these mix-ups. Like, oh, that's interesting, but I fucking hate it.
If you if you want something that's going to kind of scratch that itch in a much more minimal kind of way, there's Fights in Tight Spaces. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
Combines, it's like a tactical, but also like card, like a card fight kind of thing.
Yeah, a little bit less technical.
Yeah.
This is what the idea behind the Yomi thing is. It's taking all the frame jabs and like frame priority and shit and making it visible.
Okay.
And making it not reflex based. But like the trick to that stuff isn't just that it's hard to intuit. It's also a little boring, I think.
Yeah.
And like just having it laid out, like that game is very, man, I can't remember the last time I got so frustrated playing a video game. It takes forever. Like every match I feel like me and Will played that for like 25 minutes for a single fighting game match.
Oh,
that could be an exaggeration, but it was miserable.
Yeah.
So people are doing these kind of things, I guess is my point.
Yeah.
You know, and they're cool thought experiments. And a lot of times they max out the neat meter without hitting the good meter.
Yeah. Mr. Mundus says, in the recent Grand Theft Auto 5 episodes, you guys were very critical of the game's tone and writing, which made me curious about your thoughts on the Red Dead Redemption games. While Rockstar's infamous sense of humor is still present in them, it's significantly toned down in favor of dramatic storytelling and character writing. How successful do you feel they are at this?
I don't know. I haven't played one of these.
I played like halfway through Red Dead Redemption 1. And then made a really good attempt at the Undead Nightmare expansion for that before it glitched out in a very funny way and made it unwinnable. Headless zombies started showing up and you couldn't kill them.
Oh, yeah, that is their main weakness.
Yeah. I think they're fine. I've not played 2, which is the one that I think more people are reacting to when they talk about Red Dead Redemption being huge and a good deal. I could believe it. It's just been a matter, it's a matter of time. It's a 100-hour game. Yeah.
I'm curious about it.
Yeah.
When I'm in the mood for one of those open world games, I really do enjoy them. And I'm halfway, like I like rolling around on a horse a lot, and then people are like, oh, the animations are very slow because you're meant to just like live in the pace of it. That scares me.
Yeah, a little bit
as a thing, but I would still be willing to give it a shot. I just haven't had time to fit in my life. So yeah, no, don't know. I believe that different people it's a big company. Lots of people writing. I can believe they put their, less shitty writers on something like that.
Yeah. And you get to slaughter KKK members. So
I love that. Yeah. And you get to play poker in a video game, which I always like playing poker in a video game.
Yeah.
Jeffrey says, there's a discussion in the Slack where the idea of life circumstances can help shape your game taste. I was divorced in 2016 and was living alone in a place I really couldn't afford. It was in a bad place psychologically. I tried Demon Souls, Dark Souls, and Bloodborne before I bounced off them until I hit this rough patch. Then I became obsessed, which led to me seeking out more Souls media. The point is, because circumstances in my life allowed me the mental capacity to finally get Souls, my taste in games was irrevocably shifted, and it informs my purchases and perspectives on games to this day. Do either of you folks have a similar story? What games, other than Souls, I think we can all see where you took that, have had a lasting impact on your life, and how did your place in the world at the time impact that?
Yeah, this is hard because my entire adulthood has been my entire adulthood of gaming has been handled in public. So
yes,
there's that. It would be hard to do this without just restating something that we've already done over the past 12 years.
Yeah, the calling stand under the don't tree and riddle me this in the public.
Yeah,
very generous.
Well, I'm just saying it's there.
I'm just teasing you. I'm just teasing you. Yeah. No, I the closest thing I have to this is, my big, the time I played all of the CRPGs was being unemployed. I moved back in with my parents for 6 months or so in my early 20s.
Yeah.
An apartment I had lined up fell through and I did not have an option. So I had to move back in with my folks, and just had a lot of time.
Yeah.
During that, shortly after that, lost my job. So good thing I didn't get that apartment, I guess. And then while I was looking for other apartments, I had a lot of time.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And that, just having that extra time and, probably wanting to escape, big worlds were very appealing.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
And yeah.
there was like the year and a half after college where I was looking for jobs. Ended up moving back in with my family during that time as well, which was probably like the last time I was like really, really hungry for console RPG stuff. Just like going back to stuff that I had played, like one after the other, kind of voraciously, as opposed to the metered out way we've been doing, ever since we started the show. And so, yeah, there was that. I can't say how that changed my life at all, other than it was a retreat into familiarity during a time that was quite depressing for me.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like a little bit of overlap with this, with the depression gaming.
Yes.
Kind of thing. It can have an effect, but also I think there's nothing wrong if those games are just there for you when you need them.
Yeah. Yeah.
As well, like, you do the dungeon train thing,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I need this right now. Yeah.
Greg writes, I feel like I've heard you two briefly mention rhythm games before, and I'm curious if you two consider yourselves fans of the genre. Did you get your start from games like Parappa, or were you ever into the Bamani rhythm games, such as DDR or Beatmania? If not, what kinds of rhythm games were you playing? Any current ones that you are playing these days?
I consider myself a fan of rhythm games, but I don't necessarily keep up with them. I did play Parappa back in the day. I like Parappa just fine. I didn't really come alive with those until Guitar Hero, Karaoke Revolution, that era. And that is what really unlocked them for me. And then I played all of the Rhythm Heaven games. I've like imported the GBA version translated. Or not imported, bought a flash cart of a translated. You can't import it translated. I think I have an import copy of it, and I have a translation copy of it.
You're a fan.
Big fan of that series. Huge fan of that. And generally a big fan of rhythm games. I liked Patapon on PSP, as long as the music is good.
Yeah.
I like rhythm games. I would consider myself a fan, but I'm not. There's tons of indie rhythm games, and I have not. I played the fuck out of Audio Surf as well.
Oh yeah,
not a great game. I don't think,
no,
but like, really like simple.
The best thing about Audio Surf is you could bring in your own music.
That was so fun. That was goddamn super compelling. It was like Monster. What is it?
Yeah, Monster Rancher. Yeah,
Monster Rancher for me, except with songs instead of just CDs. Like, and there was actually a 1-to-1 relationship.
Between the things. It wasn't just the beat. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't just a random number generator. Like that Monster Rancher thing was fun, but also it was just pulling a slot machine.
Yeah.
This felt really different to me. But yeah, I haven't really kept up. That's how I feel about them.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of rhythm games, but like not in the sense that like I'm sitting down and playing like ultra expert Trackmania, where you're like burning through keyboards or whatever, similar history as Gary, played Parappa, fucking love Guitar Hero and Rock Band. I feel like I'm very good at Rock Band. I have continued, like in my living room, I have my Rock Band set up there. I've got the drums out and stuff. So, I can play my full assembled library on the Xbox on it's like Rock Band 4 plus all of my imported tracks on the Xbox Series X there. So like, yeah, I'm way into it. But there's just not been a whole lot going on in that, in that front in terms of track-based rhythm game kind of stuff. Most of it has moved on to VR, where you fall into these are really good mechanics. Like it is super fun to play Pistol Whip or Beat Saber, but without getting a mod that brings your own tracks in, you're at the mercy of whatever they have available.
Exercising to bad techno.
Yes. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. I just don't have that relationship with music where it's like anything with a beat, I like it.
Yeah.
I'm a picky snob about that shit. Like, give me the Pavement pack for Beat Saber.
Yeah. And they have packs, but it's all like the Weekend and stuff. It's
Weekend Lizzo, stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. It's just not the kind of music I like to listen to.
Yeah.
The weird thing is rhythm games are really diverse.
Yes.
They're and the degree to which they play differently is pretty intense.
Yeah. I have hundreds of hours in Rocksmith, but that's a teaching tool. That's not necessarily
that's practicing guitar.
Right. Yeah.
So I would definitely consider myself a fan, but I just don't keep up, even though I'd like to. And I'm also a snobby, picky fan, is how I would say it.
Yeah. What's Devin say?
Devin says, "Hey guys, Big Dog here. Welcome to the Big Dogs." Me and Liv have been rewatching Adventure Time.
Okay.
As you know, I love how sparing they are with Jake barking. It's just when he's mad, and he just gets really great. Anyway, the Big Dog continues. Are there any games you've done a 180 on? The first time I played Baldur's Gate 3, I just couldn't get into it. After some prodding by a buddy, I tried it again, and I'm really enjoying it. Conversely, any games you remember loving that just do not hold up after a recent playthrough? I don't. So because of work stuff, because of game for work stuff, typically no. Usually, if something is for the show, I will follow it through, and it's pretty rare that something will make a really bad first impression and then I end up liking it. For a game, I don't necessarily have that DNA. In a lot of ways. And if it makes a bad first impression, if I'm not playing it for the show, I just quit. Yeah. Cause I have work to do. But that's not normal. That's a function of the weird job. So I don't have a good example of the first one.
For the first one, definitely games like Planescape and Fallout, where prior to doing the show, I had made attempts to play them either when they were piratable or I think when they first came on GOG. I was like, hey, these are games with really good with really good legacies. People love these things, and then it was just too much for an interface kind of thing. Now I think those games are good and worth getting acclimated to. As for the other one, plenty of times where there was a game that I was like super over the moon for, then went to and just the more times than you can really count, I guess, that happens. Just if you wait a while, it's like, this is not so good. A phenomenon that's really interesting that I have discovered recently are games that are really good the first time, but just don't have a second playthrough. In them. And that's really interesting. So like when we did God of War, the new God of War for the show, I had already played it like a year or so previous, and I did not have nearly as much fun. The second time. We just did Slayer's X for our premium episode, and I still like that game. It's not nearly as fun to play the second time. You just know all the secrets, and it's not that kind of game. So it's kind of like it didn't hold up, even though I loved it. It might be though that it just has one play in it, and maybe that's okay. A game shouldn't be expected to be something that can be replayable and just as good every single time. Like there are movies that you just watch once. I watched the Barbie movie for the first time recently, and I liked it, but I can't really see myself watching it a bunch of times. It was really good, but it's just like, that was good. I don't know that I would get too much joy out of it another time, but it was good. I mean, something staring us right in the face here for me, Mass Effect, right? Mass Effect 1, just like there was a time where like, hey, this thing rules. And then you play other stuff and, come back to it, especially having played stuff later in the series and all of the flaws are there to see,
It's a fine line between things that comfort you with the sequence and then just kind of the sequence lies everything bare. Like if it's fun to go through the order of operations that exist because it's comfortable, that's one thing. But every once in a while, that order of operations discovery was the only thing that was cool about it. Or the diminishing returns just cast a brighter shadow on everything else, or brighter light on everything else, which reveals their dark shadow.
Then there's the heartbreaking version of this, which is, you can only play Obra Dinn once, right?
Yes.
You can only play Golden Idol once. So,
and if you're doing it again, it's literally just, it's a very different thing.
Restepping through solutions that you vaguely recall.
Yep. That's the saddest thing for that with me is like Portal. Like I like replaying those games, once every 4 or 5 years, but it's never the same. What does Morgan say? Do we want to do one more of these and then move on?
Yeah, let's do one more of these. Morgan says, are there any quality of life improvements that are currently either rare or non-existent that you would like to see implemented universally in games? I love that being able to skip and pause cutscenes is now pretty much standard, but I'd also love if they had a rewind button. Your lips to God's ears.
Yeah, that would be really good.
As somebody who makes notes during these games. Just like literally make it like an Apple TV remote. Just like, hey, step me back 30 seconds. because I missed what that guy said, you know?
Even if you're not making notes, this would be handy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know, like you look at your phone or something, we're all distracted all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no downside to this.
Yeah.
You know, subtitles, obviously that gets into accessibility, but even without accessibility, I still want them. I feel like that should be standard.
This is super petty. I want subtitles to be like the option for that to be in a predictable place. I wish that
whether it's in sound or game or video.
Yep. Like there needs to be a consensus fucking yesterday on that.
Yes. It's like searching around for that is like my least favorite part of any game. Just like, ooh, I get to go into the mystery of the menu caves and see where they thought this should go.
Also, just in the realm of subtitles, for fuck's sake, when you have subtitles, don't just make it what was said, make it who said it as well.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, like there are off-screen voices. There are characters who like are not around enough. Like nobody will say their name. I want to know who says that. Actually, please.
I get it if it's specifically a spoiler, but that's incredibly rare.
Yeah,
and I just bring that up because somebody's gonna be like, "Well, what if it's a spoiler, smug face?" And I'm
then it could be mystery voice, hooded figure, whatever. If I'm not supposed to know,
it also doesn't happen very often. Pausing, like I'm well over my being in love with the idea of not being able to pause in a Souls game. You should be able to pause. Sometimes I have to piss. I don't want to be punished for that. I don't think that's a meaningful game design choice. That's kind of a weird answer to this question because it's really only one series that does that bullshit. Right. It's a series I love, but they're the only ones who do this fuckery.
Yeah.
I would love to see skippable cutscenes. I also think if dialogue is presented in a paragraph, you should be able to press a button and go to the next paragraph, cutting off the person speaking, and it should not go to the end of the entire page of dialogue. Just go to the next set that would be on the screen.
Please.
There are games that don't do that where it just skips to the end. That's infuriating. You miss a lot of dialogue just for skipping any dialogue, and that's unacceptable. So, and skipping the dialogue should be. I don't care about your I like voice acting performances. Don't force me into anything. No. If I have to sit down and just listen to somebody slowly drone on, and I've already read the thing and I'm impatient, I'm feeling impatient, and making me sit down and listen to the pace of this dialogue will not make me less impatient or make me like it more.
The appearance of spoiler character in Baldur's Gate 3, whose whole deal is that he speaks loquaciously and flowerly or whatever. It's delightful. It's a fun joke. I was hammering the skip button to get to the end of the to get to the point, man.
It's that's part of just my personal bugbear with fully voiced all dialogue, as a thing that I think is unnecessary. Give me some to get the tone. But then I'm just going to skip by and read. This is a book. I read faster than I listen, and there are if a scene is appropriately arresting, I'll stop and listen to the performance, but it is unfair expectation to put on a game, which has by definition a lot of filler material, a lot of non-dramatic material that I am going to pay the same amount of attention and get as much out of the performance in mundane lines about inventory and shit as I do during dramatic moments. It's the same thing if you're reading. If you read, you don't sit down, you don't slow down and just really take in every single mundane line about walking up and down hallways to completion.
No.
You read that, you get it, and then you move on to the parts where you really focus in, or at least that's how I work. This going in and out of focus.
Then you do compression, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I'm not reading or I'm just skimming. It just means that I'm not really slowing down and luxuriating in stuff that is not dramatic, or not interesting. And I think that game should account for that.
Yeah. Another minor one here. It relates back to the QTE thing, button mashing. So many games have gotten, they've gotten wise to this. Just instead of mashing, hold, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. Please. I never want to rapidly press a button to demonstrate my strength or endurance again.
Or neither. Is making me hold even doing that good work.
I'm
is that what is that adding?
I'm negotiating with terrorists here.
Yeah, I no, 100%. It's better.
Yeah.
It's just I think that developers should challenge their assumptions that they have to have something there.
Yeah.
And they're trying to answer my first problem. They're trying to make it engaging.
Yeah.
But asking me to tap the button is annoying and not engaging. Asking me to hold it is not engaging.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be fine just to skip it. Just show the person push over a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine that.
It's fine.
It's Chris Redfield. Of course he can push over a fucking bookshelf. I don't need to do anything.
Nope.
It's Chris Redfield. Like bookshelves are his natural enemy. Yeah.
Why would I assume Chris Redfield? Yeah. Am I so perfect?
Yeah,
Right?
of course I'm not.
Yeah.
Is there anything Chris Redfield can't do that I can? No.
Yeah.
Chris Redfield is better than me in every possible way.
Yeah. So I'm just going to step aside and let him do his thing. I don't need to. I don't even need to be here, really.
Let Chris Redfield take the wheel.
Yeah.
Bryce Redfield.
Great. See, it's right there.
Yeah,
it's been there the whole time.
Chris T. Redfield. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Life questions.
What does Bo say?
What does Bo say? I need to go down to that particular thing here. We have a lot of questions.
We did get a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Just the season.
Bo says, Merry Happymas, y'all. Every year for Christmas, my friends and I get together for tourtière, which I looked up. That is a kind of Canadian savory meat pie, which looks very tasty.
That sounds nice.
They get together for tourtière and mulled wine, and then watch as an ensemble. As I was moving ahead, occasionally I saw brief glimpses of beauty. It's the most wonderful and intimate moment of every year for me. Are there any specific things you do around this time of year that fill your hearts up with joy? Have a great holiday, gamer Americans.
Yeah. If you don't know, I did not know. As I was moving ahead, occasionally I saw brief glimpses of beauty. Is an experimental documentary film compiled by Mika's Home Movies. The film was an attempt by the director to reconstruct his life through various home movies filmed over a period of about 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it shows birthdays, picnics, stuff like that. Landmark events. I'd never heard of that.
Neither I.
Or that meat pie.
Mm-hmm.
I have heard of mulled wine.
Yes, of course. This is all like just super basic, like watching Christmas Vacation over at my mom and stepdad's house on Christmas Eve, right? It's just there. Frosting cookies, right? Shortly before Christmas, going and doing that this Thursday. That's all stuff that's going to be kind of a bummer because this is the first Christmas without my grandmother. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My grandpa passed away 5 years ago. My grandmother passed away this year. Like this is going to be one of those weird first Christmases, right? After a loss in the family. Like I always really enjoy the drive over to my dad's on Christmas Day, do Christmas in the morning, moms, and then drive basically 2 towns over in order to go to my dad's. It is always real fun to drive on Christmas and just see everything just empty and quiet. Yeah. So those are mine.
Yeah. Don't really got those. My Christmas, no family. And then my Christmas kind of depends on whether I'm partnered or not. Assuming that this year will be like last year, me and Liv get up and make a breakfast and exchange gifts and then kind of like fart around with our gifts and hang out.
Nice.
Treat it like a nice day off in pajamas. Which is really nice. But yeah, no movie rituals or anything like that. There's no, there's no movie I want to watch every year. That I can think of. Too frequent. When I was younger, occasionally there would be things when I was like very young, but this is, it's not really a thing.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Like I don't miss it. You know? So, Drew on Arrival says, "Hey Cole, as someone who also lives with ADHD, any advice on how to start a new project or skill and maintain it? I've had to slowly pace myself into a healthy routine through medication and exercise, which have helped tremendously. But paired with a full-time job, I'm typically wiped and unable to try new things or pursue art at the end of the day without ducking up my sleep schedule. But the free time I do have is spent me just vibing into a state of rest. I don't want to overexhaust myself."
No, you don't want to do that. Everybody's ADHD is going to be different. Or any kind of executive dysfunction. I can only tell you what works for me. which is that if something is out of sight, it is going to be out of mind. So finding persistent ways that you can encounter reminders of your habit, or what you want to do. Maybe this means leaving things out, leaving a station set up for whatever you want to accomplish. Is probably the best way to make sure that it doesn't just fall into the cracks. And this is also combined with, I think, getting a heightened knowledge that the you of the future is a very different and less responsible person, and you in the present need to set things up to make the right thing easy to do for them. So that it's the path of least resistance to do to do the thing that would be good, but you might be too exhausted or scattered for at that particular point. This is not particular to people with executive dysfunction. I think this works for everybody, but I've found that this is especially true for me.
Making things that you want to do easy for yourself is some of the best advice for anything.
Yes.
It's why there should be garbage cans on every corner. And then littering would go down, I feel like.
Yeah.
Just make it very convenient.
Yeah.
To do anything that you want me to do. Yeah. And obviously also works for yourself.
Yes.
As a thing.
Yep. You can do it for others to achieve an outcome that you want. Make the right thing easy. Do it for yourself too.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed. And don't be hard on yourself if you are spending your time vibing and getting yourself rested.
Yeah.
You're working full time. It's hard to do that on top of other stuff.
Yeah. And if what you are aiming for is a creative pursuit, recognize that consumption is a part of creation as well. Eventually you've got to, do the thing, but also, reading is writing in a way. So there is that.
You have to do all this stuff and there's not enough hours in the day due to capitalism and stuff.
Yeah.
So, doing your best is all you can do. You won't do it all. I find that fact incredibly comforting. Some people find it stressful. Some people think it is kind of blasphemous to think about it at all. But when I realize I'm not going to be able to do everything, so some things are going to fall through the cracks necessarily, that was a great moment of peace for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Friend of the show, Doug, says, I was walking into my synagogue for Hanukkah, only to look to my left and see the girl who I was head over heels in love with in high school. We had dated for about 2 months at age 15 before she wisely friend-zoned me and broke my poor hormone-saturated teenage brain. Here I am almost 30 years later and finding it interesting that I'll now be running into her now and again and being forced to think about that time in my life. Just curious if you've ever had a blast from the past, romantic or otherwise, and how you felt about it. I don't run into people from my past.
Right,
generally.
Right. One of the benefits of moving. Yeah.
Yep. You put a country between you and that, and then it stops happening. It's great. When that has happened, it has been like something will happen digitally, sometimes like somebody I haven't thought of for a little while. And I just think, oh, okay, and move on. The closest thing to it, and this is not exactly the same, but the closest thing is if somebody dies.
Yeah.
And I'm getting to that age now where that's just going to keep fucking happening.
Oh, okay.
And that will have that kind of like time travel force me to reflect on where and who I was at the time in which that person was, a bigger part of my life. Yeah. This is not like Friends. It's like when you find out an acquaintance dies.
Yeah.
When a friend dies, that's obviously different, even if they were from a different time in your life. But like, oh, this person who I saw around, they died. That's weird. Like my old, one of my first jobs at the Public Opinion Laboratory, which was a telephone surveying place.
Was that the scam place?
It was one of the scam places. It wasn't as scammy as the other scam place. Okay. This was just an annoying place, but not scammy. One of my bosses there died recently, and he was kind of a guy who was in the scene. Nice guy, liked him. Had nothing against him, but he died. And I just had this like, oh, I'm thinking about the times I've seen him and that time in my life now.
Yeah.
It's that weird kind of time travel, like a dark mirror version of seeing an old ad you used to read as a kid.
Yeah. And, it's just, I was about to say, you don't always remember what you've forgotten, which is one of the most meaningless sentences anybody has ever uttered.
You could crochet that and put it up at an Airbnb. Like it's meaningless, but its target like fall brand meaningless. Like that could 100% be part of the Ross collection at Target.
Yeah. I see all of these kinds of things as little opportunities because, like, literally, just I've filed away a whole bunch of stuff. It's those are archived, right? They're in the warehouse from the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and so you read a death announcement or a marriage announcement or whatever, and then just kind of like, oh yeah, I did know that person. That kind of deal. I guess the answer is this is just like in the same it's in the same neighborhood as like clouds don't stay in the sky, right?
Yeah.
Like I can have this thought and I can have this little blast from the past, but ultimately it comes down to we're both literally different people than we were at that point. And
the past is a different planet.
Yeah, I hope they're doing as well as I am. Yeah.
Did you know that clouds only last for like 15 minutes?
No, I didn't.
The clouds last for 15 to 30 minutes.
Huh.
We just never noticed them dissipating because it happens so gradually and our attention spans don't work that way. But clouds don't last.
Huh.
And if you wanted to, you could follow a cloud until it dissipated. It would take like a half hour.
To what end?
No, just to see it happen, to see a thing, a rare thing, I guess. Or a very common thing that is very rarely noticed.
Right. Huh.
Yeah. I don't know. You're trying to fill out your Airbnb with dog shit paintings and stuff. You don't always remember what you forgot. Laugh, love. There's only two things I hate, and both of them are dying twice. Got
a lot of walls in this Airbnb. I can't get my hands around the other end of this thing.
Welcome to the Panopticon, the Inside Out, Decahedron Airbnb. Justin says, if you were in a horror movie, which character type would you be? Comic relief, person caught having sex and killed off early, or the killer? Or perhaps all that prep from unfilmable and survival horror games pays off and you're the final girl. Bonus points for including how you would kill /die/survive and including Gwen and the others from the Duckfeed network.
Yeah.
I would die.
Oh, I'd be the first one dead.
I'd be an early one dead. I think that I could stay alive to be the second one to subvert expectations. I'd be like, we shouldn't do this. I'm careful. And I'm a little genre savvy. And then you'd think I would survive, but then I would die to fuck with audience expectations.
Yeah.
I would introduce a twist to the murder.
Yeah. I wouldn't be I take that back. I wouldn't be the first person to die, but I would be the person who tried to lock themselves away from it, and that would drive me to extreme ends that would result in my demise.
Yeah, I would probably try to get out of there and try to do reasonable things, and then because it's a movie, that would kill me.
Yes, yeah.
I'd call help. Of
course,
you don't do that. Yeah,
there's always the quiet religious guy who goes nuts and everybody shoots people. Yeah.
I like to think I wouldn't go nuts or anything, but I would try to get the fuck out of there.
It depends on the situation, right?
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I would die. Let's say it's a cabin situation. I would die out in the woods. After somebody died, I'd be like, I have to leave. I'd be the person who's like, we can't stay here. And then probably just my flight reflexes.
Yeah.
Would be so hard. I think I would die in that way. They'd find me. I would disappear in Act 1. They'd find me strung up like a spider web, like my intestines in a tree in Act 3.
Yeah. All I can say is I for sure would not be a leader.
No, I think I'm pretty resourceful in those situations. But if somebody's like, no, man, I'm not going to do that. I'm like, cool, go with God. I'm too much of an individualist to be a leader.
Yeah, right.
I think of myself as resourceful, but I don't have any interest in, telling somebody what they can do in that situation. And then Gwen would spontaneously combust unrelated to the murder.
Just other misadventure.
Yeah, it would just be like she was off having her own adventure and it resulted in that.
Yes.
So that's my guess.
Yeah.
And the level would all die in the same car on the way to the murder.
Oh gosh. I would figure that you would be dead, but you would be dead at Will's hand.
No, Will talks a big talk about being a serial killer and liking doing traps and stuff. I think he would get analysis paralysis and want to do it in cool, puzzly ways. And he also would be very jealous he wasn't in the death trap.
Oh, yeah.
To solve it. And that delay I could capitalize on.
He would put himself in the trap and make other people prove that they cared enough about him living.
Yes, and that would actually be the trap. Like there'd be like 3 different, kind of false things with that. And just like, I don't know. It's at some point I would die from walking in the woods to try to get away from it.
Okay, fuck this.
I would just die of exposure from fuck this.
Another life question here. Final life question. Adam writes, "Hey guys, I just woke up from a fever dream. I have a cold, where the 3 of us were involved in a shootout at a convenience store. My body is weirdly sore in all the places I got, quote, hit. So 2 questions. Are y'all okay? And have you ever had these type of after effects carry over from a dream?"
I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm fine.
I haven't been shot. I didn't have a dream of being shot.
Mm-hmm.
All my after effects from dreams are not physical, like they're mental. I will wake up from like sad dream and be sad. I'll wake up from anxious dream and be anxious. I have to recently be like, oh, none of that was real.
Yeah.
And just like literally just, oh, that's not happening. This is what's happening, and kind of like take inventory of things that are true.
Yeah.
To kind of get over that. But I've never had a physical, waking up with Willie's rake claws across your chest kind of thing.
You know what I've run into that is just really sad is the wake up from a happy dream and realizing that none of that happens.
Oh, I mean, not to bum things out, the number of dreams I have where my mom is alive is fucking nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't like it.
No. So one time I had a dream that I was eating a big marshmallow and I woke up, my hands were wrapped around a stranger's neck.
Yeah. I once had a dream that I was skiing, cross-country skiing, and both of the poles felt like dicks. And then when I woke up, I was drinking off 2 men, and they were both in planes, trains, and automobiles.
Oh, were they happy?
They were into it. Well, one of them was a little grumpy, but the other one was happy-go-lucky and seemed to have a good attitude towards life, but he was a skeleton.
Ah!
It was John Candy.
Oh, gosh.
Moving on to media questions here. Luigi at Large says, I revisited the Silent Hill 2 WAF, and Gary mentions There Will Be Blood as one of his favorite movies. As a P.T. Anderson fan man, I would love to hear y'all talk about that movie in full, and I think it could work as an unfilmable episode. I'd love to hear both your opinions on his filmography. I believe there's even a quote from Paul Thomas Anderson somewhere calling it a horror film. Anyway, love you and thank you. Yeah. That is one of my favorite movies. I do think it counts as a horror movie. So does P.T. Anderson.
Yeah.
When he was doing The Master, I think. So I was like, oh, have you ever considered doing a horror movie? And he's like, I think I just did.
Yeah.
I consider There Will Be Blood also to be a horror movie.
The sound design in There Will Be Blood is a horror movie sound design.
It's already a horror, even without just it being a character study of a more chilling character than any horror movie.
Yeah.
Features. Like Daniel Plainview is scarier than Jason Voorhees.
Yes.
By a lot. I think that could do that. And I also, the choice is either we stretch the format sometimes or we just have a just general movie show, and I don't want to just do a general movie show.
No.
So I think the format getting stretched into horror / things is fine and good.
Yeah. I'm fine with that. Not like back to back to back, but
no, you just want a break, like, in moderation.
Yeah.
So I would love to do There Will Be Blood. For that. I love that movie. I love that movie.
I'm not against it.
Yeah. So it's good. P.T. Anderson, I kind of fell off. I haven't seen his last couple of, I think the last one I saw might've been The Master. I didn't see the
Inherent
one
Vice.
about the seamster, Inherent Vice, or the one about the fashion guy. So I'm 2 behind on Paul Thomas Anderson, but everything other than Hard 8 that he's done prior to that, I like a lot. I think is really good.
Yeah.
So
we're coming up on time here. We should probably
we had to skip. That's okay.
Yeah.
Do the lightning round. Yeah, I lost track of the time.
There's one show question that I think we should probably address or at least talk about. Eric's84 asks, "Hey, Gary and Cole, longtime listener, first-time caller. I've been listening since your Dark Souls 2 coverage, and I'm excited for, but also hesitant about, Real Lich Hours. This is the first time you're covering a game that I'm interested in, but haven't started yet. Hopefully, a small discount during the Steam Winter Sale will push me over the edge to buy it. How much should I worry about spoilers once the actual Real Lich Hours episodes start releasing? Are they going to be split up into spoiler-free parts and spoilery parts? Should I just wait until the start of the game, until I start the game to listen if I am worried about spoilers?"
The spoiler policy that we had for Bonfire Side Chat games doesn't really make sense for the format for Real Lich Hours, and we are covering the actual in-game content of Baldur's Gate 3 glacially slowly.
Yeah.
Slower than we've ever covered anything before in our entire lives, and maybe slower than any podcast has ever covered anything. Slower. We're like 4 episodes in, and we just did the first pass of the first town.
Yeah.
In it. So it would be amazing if you play that game and got something spoiled.
Yeah.
For you from the podcast. Most of the stuff we're talking about are things that either you could figure out through context, or if you had a greater background on the game world.
Yeah, you would really know right away. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really just kind of filling in knowledge gaps that you maybe, if you are only familiar with the game, you don't have about the game world.
Yeah.
It's stuff that exists. It's not a spoiler. You just didn't know to Google it. Or to look for it is how I would
just
say
like,
it.
Oh, this is important that they talk about Chult, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I would say I wouldn't worry about it too much. I also hope that the show will function as a Let's Play for people who are not interested, where you will hear all of this stuff about this world, but also get to hear about what these two characters do and how they handle hear about these cool situations and hear about these different ways to approach it that are available in the game. That is the hope.
Yeah, that is the hope. I would say we're definitely just our approach is, does it make sense to talk about this? Like, does it make sense to spoil that? And really it just comes down to the context of what's happened there, right?
Yes. It will get, as it reaches later in coverage, it will get arguably more spoiler.
Yes.
There are like one of the things we want to do is instead of just doing, a character, like when a character has a thing with their plot, like it happens in a location, we're going to mention it. But something I really want to do is tie everything together.
Yeah.
At the end. So like have an episode where the segment is, this is the story of Karlach.
Yes.
This is her story for the game. This is her background. This is what she ended up. These are the ways that she could end. Yeah. That will be a little bit of a spoiler, but that's not going to happen for a long time.
Yeah.
Those will happen. Yeah. Once it makes sense.
Karlach, prepare to fry.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Best girl. So maybe eventually, but not for a long time. I think you'll be fine. And take the plunge. It's a strategy game at its heart. That is the thing you have to get over. It is ultimately a strategy and tactics video game.
Yeah.
It's not a Dark Souls game. All of the attendant things, so like world building and detail, encounter design, dialogue, all that stuff is really, really good. The base genre of it, like there's all the discourse about it versus Spider-Man 2 and stuff. And it's just the type of game it is.
Yeah. They're different games. Like they can both be worth playing. Come on.
They're incredibly different, just like, one's a tactics strategy game.
Yeah. It's a turn-based tactical MSIM. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Like a very, very different thing. If you are down for that, I think it's best in class, basically. Like, I don't think there's a better game that came out this year. No. And I think that, but you have to be down for that. And I'm saying that specifically to the question asker because they're coming from Dark Souls.
Yes. Yeah.
So entirely different mode of interface with it. That is the main thing you have to be on board for.
Yeah.
Moving to lightning round, we didn't get the all the breadth of questions because we got a lot of game questions.
We did.
Moving on the lightning round, Rob says, Gary, thank you for introducing me to the twisted world of Garth Marenghi. Thank you for introducing me to his dark place. P.S. I live in the Czech Republic, and the title of the show was localized as Garth Marenghi, Hospital at the Edge of the World. That's phenomenal. That's really good. Big shout out if you are hungry for more Garth Marenghi, check out Terror Tome, which is a collection of 3 novellas from Garth Marenghi, and is very funny.
if one wanted to become familiar with Garth Marenghi because it's embarrassing that he has not been, where would one start?
It's it's a 6-episode show. It's on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
It goes down so fucking easy. And we'll do it for Unfilmable at some point.
Okay.
This hypothetical person could wait if they wanted to, or they could watch it and then watch it again because I genuinely think this hypothetical person would really enjoy it.
Okay. All right. Well,
It's
I'll let
very
them
funny.
know. I'll let them know.
Yeah. Pass that on. It is one of the most unqualified recommendations I think I can make. The sense of humor behind it, like you have to have at least some tolerance for like awkward dialogue and fake, so bad it's good on purpose stuff, but in a way that is truly unique and different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Patrick writes, Lies of P, but instead of Pinocchio, it's an Oompa Loompa in a chocolate factory teeming with candy mutated contest winners. Yes or no? It's a little closer. It's a little closer than Pinocchio for me, but it doesn't pass over the line.
I still think you would have the problem that All Souls likes to. Not to answer joke questions seriously. That nobody does from Soft's level design. So even if Oompa Loompa combat was phenomenal, I just don't trust other people to do it.
You deleted one from the list there.
Whoops. Let me Control Z. I wasn't trying to. Take that, Austin. Did you see the tweet that was the clip of Timothée Chalamet and Hugh Grant being interviewed for French TV about the Willy Wonka thing?
No.
And it's just Hugh Grant saying in French, I am the Oompa Loompa. And he says it in French, and I must watch it like 30 times. It's a lot like the French dub of Marge Crumping, which is, if you've never watched that, that's fucking incredible. It's really, really good. Oompa Loompa. He looks so defeated. It's really good.
God.
I watched a clip that was, the part in Deep Space Homer where Barney does the backflips and sings "I'm the modern model of the very
model of yeah.
So obviously that doesn't translate into every language,
right?
So I watched a clip of that from all kinds of different languages. Just fascinating to see. Different languages. It takes different amounts of time to say things. So some of them are very relaxed, and some of them sound like somebody talking as fast as anyone could ever talk. It's very cute.
Yeah. Let's see. Harrison. This is you, Gary. This is
me. Harrison says, first off, how the hell are you? How are you doing, Cole?
I've got a cold, so I've been better, but I'm getting better and I have medicine. So
yeah.
How about you?
I'm okay. Also just doing that, a little stuffy. I need to start running the dehumidifier.
Yeah.
Or the humidifier rather at night.
And fight them.
Yeah. Oh, they're racing. One of them just feeds into the other. It just water transferring back and forth forever. I call it desalination, and it's going to actually revolutionize the world.
Yeah.
Secondly, what do you make of Hello Games and their new project, Light No Fire? The transition from a procedural universe to a procedural Earth-sized Earth sounds interesting.
It just depends on if they give you cool stuff to do. Like, it looks neat to fly around in that, on flying mounts and going into caves and stuff. I've not played No Man's Sky since it came out. I understand there's tons of cool stuff to do now. There are tons of systems or whatever. Like maybe it'd be cool to go and check out. Light No Fire being in a medieval fantasy kind of thing is maybe a little bit more up my alley too. So I was mildly intrigued while still wanting to be a little bit at arm's length from it.
The same. It's more my thing. I don't care about space particularly. But I also don't have a built-in trust with that dev.
Yeah.
So, and procedural generation is something I'm like, in general.
It'd be cool to have design stuff too.
Yeah. Like, you do that with a roguelike and you're taking, the systems and creatures and stuff are all bespoke. There's just sometimes a randomness in the order. You do it like, I've been playing Isaac since it came out and everything. That is technically a roguelike, but the procedural generation stuff is very minor to it. It's more like, just a slot machine on your items.
No.
And your verbs. It's not really like this location.
No.
A procedurally designed level where the level is the point is a much harder sell for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So echoing Cole's answer, basically. Like, I hope you get to do cool stuff.
Yeah. I'll pay attention to it. We'll see.
Yeah.
Austin writes, do either of you guys play any card games? Not that nerd shit. I'm talking about playing cards. As a fellow man of Midwestern stock, I need to know if you guys play euchre. You are required to buy into the tournament if you wish to attend Meat Bingo at the VFW Hall. What is Meat Bingo?
Oh, I don't know, but I like it. Highly cursed phrase.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned this before. Me and all my friends played a game called 45s. There are other names for that game. It is not popular. For a little while, there was an app of it, but just rarely. I think it was called Auction.
Okay.
That is a trick-taking game. I really, really love that game and could still play it. I played, thousands of hours in that. But I don't play any other games, really.
Yeah.
Any other card games. I have a buddy who does a poker night, and I'm tempted from time to time. I'm not good at serious poker. I like poker in video games, but actually like serious at the table poker.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly good at, and I don't like that much because I'm not good at bluffing. The any kind of social deduction thing that happens in a game is hard for me. I'm not good at lying. People know what I'm thinking. When I can see through other people's tells, I get no satisfaction from it. I just take in the information and then go neutral. Like, this person's lying. Huh, okay.
This is funny because like, I think I might be the only person on the network or in my friend groups who likes those things, who likes Among Us, who likes the social deduction kind of thing. I don't think I'm especially good at it. It's just fun.
Will really enjoys it too.
Okay.
Will is a very big into lying.
Yeah. Ben. I love that burn. That's really good. Yeah. I know how to play like Texas Hold'em poker. That's fine. That was a huge thing when I was in high school. Like that's when Texas Hold'em really started sweeping television and stuff like that. It's okay. It's something to do with your hands. Most of my card game playing happens at holidays at my dad's. With my dad's, which is just literally going back 30, 40 years. They just play penny ante, poker 7-card games with just wild, everything is wild rules, playing follow the queen or low hole or something like that. It's literally just throwing pennies around and having something to do with your hands while you talk kind of stuff.
When you show up this year, drop like a $50 bill on the table. Like, let's stop it from being penny ante and really up it.
The funniest thing.
Get serious like this time.
Somebody who married into the family tried to bring Texas Hold'em to the proceedings because he was a real big, like he made a run at trying to do it for a living,
Okay.
And literally it was just like everybody was not into that shit. Everybody groaned at this shit. Like you don't understand. We play the same 4 games.
Yeah. It's a tradition for a reason. Yeah. It will not change, newbie.
Yeah.
New fish. I don't know what it is with the social deduction games. A lot of my friends like them. It's not just the network. So like, Will likes them. Levi was always bringing the Battlestar Galactica board game around, which is a social deduction game. Like, one person's a Cylon.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I don't know. Yeah, it's not fun for me. But it's also, those are competitive games as well. And I'm not super into competitive video games or competitive games. Jack says, what is another show or shows that you would like to see Todd McFarlane Critter Spawn introduce episodes of?
Replace the Log Lady intros from Twin Peaks with the Todd McFarlane Crater Spawn.
Yeah, Masterpiece Theater.
Yeah.
I would love it if he introduced Cutthroat Kitchen with the same kind of hypothetical questions. Like, how he begins, he's like, tonight we see which fireman can really put out the fire, something like that. And then just have, close up on Todd McFarlane's spooky manse. And just
he's still drawing Spawn.
Yeah. What is fire? Do you know what will burn you? Can you understand what hot is? These contestants think they can. I'm Todd McFarlane, Critter Spawn.
You need light. You need warmth. But will it consume you? I'm Todd McFarlane.
Or will you consume
Critter
it?
Spawn.
I'm Todd McFarlane, Critter Spawn. I love him. I have that tab open on my phone 24/7 and listen to it regularly, like
just
a song.
for just emergency fixes.
It grounds me. It's the thing that, in Inception.
It's
that thing for me.
It's the top. Yeah.
Yeah. And at the end, when I die, it's just going to be skipping. You won't know if I'm in the dream or not, because you won't know if Todd McFarlane will create Spawn.
Creator Spawn. Spawn.
God,
Spawn. Greg writes, what are some things about the podcast and your network that you are most proud of from 2023? And what do you want to improve / add on to in 2024?
I am happy that we brought on Gwen. And that we have an employee, and that I like to think that we treat her well and we're fair dealing with her. That feels good.
It does.
Yeah. That's probably my biggest thing. I don't like pride's tough for me. I don't get a whole lot of it. It's not a Gary emotion really.
Yeah.
So I'm also just happy everything maintained, because maintenance is the best I hope for. And nothing went wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So move on. What's next? Nothing went wrong. Okay. What's more work?
Cool.
What's the next thing to do? Yeah. Let's just go.
Yeah, pretty much. Excited with the response to New Lich Hours or Real Lich Hours. New show.
New Lich Hours is the relaunch. Yeah. We're not there
yet. That's been good. And 2020, I say this every year, but I want to do more streaming. So hopefully 2024 sees that.
You stream all the fucking time. Don't you just stream every week?
Weekends, yeah.
What is more? You want to do it like Saturdays? 4 days a week?
Yeah, why not?
Like what's really? Okay.
It's fun.
It just seems like a lot of streaming.
Yeah. Just playing games and talking.
I would never think that you don't stream enough.
Oh yeah.
No. And then also, not proud because it's only kind of us, but I'm very happy with the Duckstream.
Yes.
Results.
Yeah.
That pride belongs to people who donated and spread the word. But happy that went well.
Yes.
For sure. And then goals, I'm really curious to see how Real Edge Hours does once we move it behind the Patreon wall. It is, we're putting our whole hearts in it, so I hope that it does well. And that is really the thing that's planned. We got to get our live show kind of hygiene up to snuff. Get that. We want to find something to do possibly instead of PRGE. Maybe. We might do that again. We have to figure all that out.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping 2024 can be a return to doing, our minimum, 2 live shows a year and kind of relight that fire.
Agreed.
Yeah. Bryant says, hey, Gary, you've mentioned you love deck builders, especially Monster Train. What are some of your other favorite deck builders, both digital and tabletop? Not tabletop. Also, do you enjoy engine builders, games like Terraforming Mars and Arc Nova? I haven't played a lot of engine builders. Much more of a deck builder guy. I like all of the ones I've played. In terms of tabletop, I played the Shadowrun one quite a bit. Cannot remember the name, the Shadowrun like Showdown or Meltdown or something like that. It's good. Played dice builders such as Too Many Bones. I like that. The Arkham Horror card game. I really like Dominion, the classic. Dominion's great. And then digital wise, I haven't played that many because I never know if they're going to be good because it's very popular right now.
Yes.
As an indie thing. So I haven't taken, haven't taken the plunge on a lot of them.
Yeah. It's all chasing Slay the Spire. Yeah.
Yes. Which I started playing that again. Trying to, cause I never played the new character and I never like ran up the Ascensions. I still don't like that as much as Monster Train. I think it is a much more constrained, and more demanding kind of thing, a little bit less wacky. Which I really appreciate. And then the small one that I like to give a shout out to, and it's not because it's good. It is too easy and it is a little too loose, but Night of the Full Moon is fun.
Okay.
That is a good time you can have on your iPad. It goes, real fast and again is too easy, but there are fun and creative mechanics in that.
Okay.
No.
Oh. Steven, I'm going to shorten Steven's here. What's the worst Christmas song?
I really don't like Santa Baby.
I've gone through various feelings, various minds on Santa Baby. Right now, I am in the zone of get that bag, honey.
Okay, yeah, it's not so much. I mean, the feminist power anthem version of Santa Baby, where she's just telling she's being a mob mall and being like, "Joker, buy me a fur coat."
Yeah,
that kind of thing. I guess get that bag. I just don't want to hear a song about it.
True.
The song I think is really annoying.
Yeah.
Even the original Eartha Kitt version, like Baby It's Cold Outside is grosser.
Right.
But Santa Baby, I find, infantilize me, buy me lots of things and rings. and I don't like the Harley Quinn, I'm just a baby girl voice very much.
Mm-hmm.
All Christmas music is dog shit, though. I hate all of it.
Except weirdly, you go to bat. You're a shooter for
the first 15 seconds.
Yeah,
of simply having because they use the default Christmas tone, and it's like the dorkiest fucking thing in the world. I think that's funny, and then it turns awful. It gets really bad.
Yeah. I could do the standard Christmas shoes or whatever, but I fucking hate Jingle Bell Rock.
God!
It's the only song ever published that is at 20 beats per minute.
It's also it's funny because you look at Baby It's Cold Outside or Christmas Shoes; those are evil songs. But they're not that's different than viscerally annoying. It's like the social justice answer versus like the gut answer. If somebody's like, "Oh, what do you hate about living in the city?" and I'll be like, "Oh, I hate that there's, the Unipiper," and somebody will be like, "Oh, you don't hate that there aren't enough people of color around?" And I'm like, well, I didn't take the question in that spirit. I didn't realize we were having a forum.
Yeah.
If we're talking about the most evil Christmas song, that's different. But the most annoying fucking Christmas song, man, Jingle Bell Rocks fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding. It just takes regular genres of music and fucking Todd Rod Flanders them. Let's make it all being nice. There are a couple of indie bands that have songs that are Christmas songs I think are okay.
Yeah.
That they kind of do them as a little bit of a stunt, but they never get any play.
Yeah.
And they're only barely Christmas songs.
The Eels have good Christmas songs, actually.
Many good Christmas songs?
They have two Christmas songs that I think are good. Christmas is Going to the Dogs and Everything's Gonna Be Cool This Christmas.
Yeah.
Yes.
Father Christmas by the Kinks I think is good.
Mm-hmm.
It is good praxis. Father Christmas, give me some money. It's just none of this gift shit. And then the New Pornographers have a song called Joseph Who Understood that I really like. That is, I think, actually kind of beautiful. And it's just about everyone in Bethlehem assuming that Mary cheated on Joseph. And that's why, she got pregnant without them having sex and him having to gain faith the same way that a believer would.
Nice.
And claim the child as his own, even though he wasn't, biologically the father. I think that's a very beautiful song and a very beautiful idea for a song, but it's barely about Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
That could be about any virgin birth.
Ockerville River also has Listening to Otis Redding at Home During Christmas, which is a very bittersweet song.
Yeah. So traditional Christmas songs can absolutely lick my bridge.
Yes. Listen to other stuff instead.
Yeah, please. Or just regular music.
Yeah,
just because it's not like an entire fucking 6 weeks you can't listen to good music. What a nightmare.
Yeah.
Holland says, what are your thoughts on the news of the upcoming Zelda movie, that it will be live action? Do you think they'll try to keep Link from talking, or will they finally give him a voice? Also, if you want to, what is your wish casting for the main characters?
My mind just rolls off of this idea like water around a rock. I can't bring myself to care or even get annoyed.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be good. I don't think Zelda games have a good story.
Yeah.
I don't understand why this exists other than that Mario made tons of money.
Mm-hmm.
People wanting, somebody on Twitter said this, and I'm not a big anime guy, but somebody said the time and place for a Zelda movie would have been the 80s from some anime studio you'd never heard of, and it would have been unwatchable.
Yep.
And I would have preferred that.
Yeah.
I don't need this.
That'd
Can we learn anything
from
from the Warcraft movie?
Yeah. Come on. Yeah. Chris writes, Cole, please tell me you finally watched Willow. This is in my top 4 most loved movies. This has to be a joke. It is not a joke. However, I will treat this like a joke and never watch it and continue to treat Gary with disdain for having affection for this.
If you don't watch Willow, we'll never do another JRPG on the show again.
Okay. You already were going to do it. So
I know. Deal. No, I'm just saying that I'm taking my bloody measure. Yeah. Yeah. I might rewatch Willow for the holidays.
Yeah. Yeah. How's that TV series treating you?
They took it away.
I
couldn't watch it. They took it away. I mean, even if you hate Willow, which you have no reason to hate Willow, but even if you did hate Willow, you could agree that's dumb.
Oh yeah, that's
like
terrible.
It got to be on streaming for 6 months, and then they're just like,
It's anti-art. It's anti-human.
Yeah, that sucks. Andy K250 says, Gary and Cole, do you say soda or pop or something else?
I say pop.
Yeah, I say soda. We talk about this in the most recent Quack Stack.
Yeah. I Poop For You says, how do you feel about Heart and Soul by Tapao? That is all. I looked this up. It is one of the most dated songs I've ever heard.
Okay.
It's like 80s pop kind of thing. Yeah.
I'm sure I would know it if I heard it, but I don't know it by the title.
Yeah.
So that's going to be my answer because we're running low on time.
Yes.
Yeah. Ghosto says, what are the best names for shows that you've brainstormed that will never be used?
We had some really good ones in mind for Real Itch Hours, but for various reasons, couldn't use. Like we had a podcast, but it's a mimic. But that was too similar to an actual play podcast that's still going.
Yes.
We had
that's usually what will happen.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We had Gather Your Party, which is not taken, but because things get initialized, the initialism for Gather Your Party is a horrible slur.
Yes.
So
that will happen. And then there are ones that are just funny sicko, names that we haven't done. Like I've gotten out of saying it at the sign off because I feel like it's I don't want to do the same sign off every year, every time, but using the code phrase for the vacuum as the title for best quality vacuum is very funny to me.
Yep.
And just really like sicko in the know, guarantee nobody will ever find it.
Oh yeah.
You know, it just like, it's funny to me though.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be into it.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our topic.
Let's do our topic here. Let's go to where that is. Shane writes, hey guys, I thought you could discuss in-game economies. I just finished playing Final Fantasy XVI, and while I enjoyed the experience, I found the in-game economy to be deeply flawed. I was earning gil with nothing to spend it on, and constantly picking up crafting materials that I had no use for, because I had dozens of them already. Quests would give me a special crafting material, allowing me to craft a certain weapon, but at that point, why not just reward me with the weapon? What to you makes a good or bad economy? What are some examples you have of each? On a side note, I just wanted to say that Gary has seemed more lighthearted and joyful since he's gotten married, and that's pretty cool. Not that he seemed miserable before.
Oh.
Lol.
Oh, thank you for that lol. I love being married. I love my wife. Happy to be a wife guy. Best thing that's ever happened to me. So economies, this thing we talk about around a lot, but I don't know that we've ever tackled it head on.
Like we've talked about like pickup economy and what that does to a game before. But I think that is distinct from this, but not unrelated.
Yeah. Super related. It's a constellation, right?
Yeah.
Like, and we had this topic last month, but I wanted to do it this month because we just talked about Mass Effect.
Yeah.
Which has an absolutely dog dick economy.
Right. Like,
and not the dog dick economy that I engage with on the dark web.
Yeah, not Bad Dragon dog dick economy. Go with God.
Not the Silk Road dog dick economy for rare aphrodisiacs. Go to redrocket.com. So the way I was thinking about this question, because we've had my point of bringing that up was that we've had a run up of this for 2 months.
Yeah.
Is that, and I want to run this by you. So if you take the different elements of an economy, which are things you find, things you earn, things you can buy and sell, and rewards, and put something cool in all of those, you're like more than halfway there.
Yeah.
I don't want to, and it sounds really obvious. I'm just saying like, make the things cool.
Yeah.
But what Shane is talking about, where it's like, oh, you get a rare material that then you can then turn into a thing. That's just not cool. That doesn't feel like a reward. It feels like here's a little chore. It doesn't visually distinguish itself.
No.
No video game makes those sound cool.
No.
You know, like
just,
Horizon Zero Dawn, like I found the, it's a scrimshaw horn.
Cool. So what does that mean for me functionally?
You go into the menu and you look and it's like a rare crafting material. Then you go into the crafting menu and you see a grayed out sword that maybe sounds cool. Like, Beastmaster or something, maybe.
You know what's super great is when you open a chest and there's a sword inside, or there's a cool skeleton and he's wielding a cooler sword, and you kill him and you get
to get it.
Yeah.
Like how excited am I to pick up things and find things? How excited am I to go to the shop? Like a good economy means that after a battle, looting is really fun. And that is because the things are cool or very useful.
Yes.
Resident Evil 4 does this as good as any game, I think.
Well, yeah, because the possibility space is extremely limited. Like, yeah, you can get pesetas, but like, you're going to go and get those. Maybe there will be something you can combine, but there's only like seven different ones of those in the game, and everything else is just ammo for guns you carry, which is immediately useful.
It drives the engine. Yeah. I use this stuff. I want those things. A flash grenade is very meaningful.
Yeah,
I want it. It's not an X potion that's going to sit in my inventory forever. It's a flash grenade. I'm going to use it to kill a big room full of guys or die because I have to.
Right.
It means something. If I go to the shop in a Resident Evil 4, I'm really excited to go to the shop because they're going to have new shit that I haven't seen. They're going to have upgrades to my meta progression. So they're going to have yellow herbs or briefcase increases.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be able to pay off and sell all that old stuff and get meaningfully better.
Yes.
New shop in Baldur's Gate 3. Always really exciting. They're going to have tons of bespoke new magical items.
Yeah.
Finding a new merchant in that game is incredible.
Yeah.
It feels so good.
This merchant, they've got a new blue item, right? When I'm mostly rolling in greens, and it's not in the MMO style. Like, okay, it's going to be a plus 0.2% on whatever. Like that is.
It's going to have a unique, cool ability and story.
Yeah.
Like flavor. This is called the Heart Seeker. And because of that, it has this mechanical effect that no other item in the game has. And it has this cool little story behind it.
Yeah.
It just does a lot.
So much of this, so many of these problems that I have in games that have, dog shit economies. I think they could solve so many problems by taking a less is more approach.
100%.
Which is like you fall into like pinball or like Yu-Gi-Oh scoring rules where like, okay, in Mass Effect, I'm, I can get up to, 100, basically like 1,000,000 credits or whatever. And some guns cost, 320,000 credits or whatever. And it's like, those numbers are too big. Like this really should be almost like a tabletop game or like a board game where instead, like by doing this, I get like a purchasing power point as opposed to like individual, currency that can be spent on this, instead of getting these resources that like each one of them could add up to maybe one of these things. If I found the recipe, if I talk to whatever, like make it into just, crafting potential and, make it so I can only have 5 of those at a given time. And make it so I need to use
a badge slot.
Yeah.
You can do a cash economy like that if you keep the numbers small and the things are worthwhile.
Yes.
Excuse me. It's a really obvious thing to say, but like just making the things you do with money fun is what makes an economy fun.
Yes.
I want to have fun when I'm spending money. It sounds very obvious to say, just make the things better, stupid. Like good things are good. It sounds like a tautology. But it's amazing how rarely this gets followed through on. Like developers not understanding the difference between like a container and what's in it. So modern games where they take the more is more approach, where you're constantly finding piddly bullshit, you're constantly finding containers, and they deploy those for a purpose. They want you to explore somewhere. They want you to feel like you're always getting treats. If there's nothing in that container, if it's a frost fang, or whatever. And if you have 10 frost fangs and a bunch of other bullshit, you can make a not very good sword. Yeah. Like it doesn't matter that it's a container. Like I'm not excited to get a bunch of empty gift boxes, just make it fun to engage with, which requires like cool things, privation to a degree.
Yes.
I can't be just rolling in money like that. Having nothing to spend is a huge problem. even in good games. Like you run into that, but you, at the very least, you shouldn't run into it in the end game. Like that feeling in Mass Effect where like I had nothing to buy except for a marginal increase in a weapon.
Yeah.
You know? That felt so bad. In that, I lost track of. In the middle of this, I went and got a package, and the UPS driver is outside my window screaming about stepping in dog shit. So sorry about losing my train of thought. There's somebody saying dog shit over and over. Yeah, outside.
Yeah, you know, and I don't, you know, I don't want anybody to make a mistake. Like when we say like, oh, developers don't understand or anything like that. Like, I don't doubt that this is hard to do, especially to make an economy viable across the entire game.
Yeah.
I think that that does need to involve a certain amount of taking things away from players. Nobody wants to do that. What I think is, you know, kind of happening is that they are, I believe the developers oftentimes are working on kind of a like an assumption of what people enjoy. And are working on kind of a shared knowledge.
And a pressure from across the industry.
Oh, this is just the way things are done, right?
Effect.
Like, yeah,
you know, to be mean
like,
to a specific company, but those Far Cry games, that kind of like, I'm just going to constantly find dog shit on the ground. Dog shit. Sorry, UPS guy. I'm just going to find, you know, bad stuff, uninteresting, low value things constantly. Like obviously that started with Diablo, but the making that a standard for games and especially open world games and tacking a crafting system onto everything, I put at the feet of Ubisoft.
It was, but the thing is, it wasn't bad when they first did it. Like they introduced the ability to upgrade your armor and stuff in Assassin's Creed 2. And it works there. It works very well in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, right? Like it actually is super meaningful, each ones of those that they got. And I think that what often happens is there's a dilution that happens where if it feels good when you upgrade stuff, we need to make it so you are always upgrading stuff and upgrading more.
And if you're always upgrading, it has to be absolutely incremental. Like I wasn't even thinking of Assassin's Creed. I was thinking of Far Cry. Like specifically as that. But
it's the mono design, right? And Assassin's Creed is, you know, especially, you know, Assassin's Creed 2 is precisely where a lot of the stuff started to creep in, and it wasn't always terrible.
Yeah. I bet you there's an element of just kind of power creep with that. Like we need to make this bigger and better. Bigger and better means more things to find on the ground. More things to find on the ground means less value for everything you find on the ground, which just kind of borks the entire economy. Like part of it is scale, and it is hard to do something big across scale. Like we talked about it being hard to do that for a whole game. Like that is true. Possible though, you know, again, not to hold it up as an example for everything, but it is finding new cool toys in Baldur's Gate 3 always feels good.
Yeah.
Part of that is just like craft, you know, and part of it is that they tune the economy correctly to where like money is fun to get and useful in the game. It also has a crafting system that is not as strong as the rest of it.
But is completely like, you can, if you want to, like if you're a sicko for picking stuff up, like you can go in and just like, I'm just stealing this.
Yes.
But like, if you don't want to, you can just extract everything and then just shop. It's another form of shopping within your menu to decide which of these potions is going to be useful for you.
Yeah. And then once you know what you want, you can start beelining for that. Like there are reagents I will pick up because I know what they do in that. And they will require 2 rare ingredients. So it's slightly different than just having the 1 rare ingredient be the thing and everything else is just, you have to make sure you have it. You know, like the quest reward thing that Shane brought up, which is a huge problem in Horizon Zero Dawn specifically, if I recall.
Yeah.
Getting that thing. It's also, I mean, it's what Monster Hunter is about.
Yeah.
You know, so there are people who really, really react to that. To me, if that bad version of it is done well and becomes not for me, but still executed well, it becomes a kind of treadmill that people want to be on. It becomes kind of a naked treadmill a la Monster Hunter. Like I am killing monsters to take their parts to get better things to kill monsters, completing sets of armor for fashion souls or for bonuses. That is a self-fulfilling engine for that. I want the usefulness of things. Like I really like getting a cool new ability, cool new verb, or something I know I can use. Like I pick up, you know, oh, in this chest I found a grease bottle that will be demonstrably useful in this next thing. Always happy to have it.
There will always be a use for this.
Yes.
Yeah.
You run into another thing with economies that I think is interesting. I was thinking about this, and this is not me just trying to pick on a whipping boy that I like to pick on, but I was thinking about console RPG stuff. One of the reasons why I don't like the economy in that is because they're, for that era, up through the 32-bit, they're all basically the same. Every town is just an upgrade, an incremental upgrade and everything. And you jump the curve by 1 extra point with dungeon treasure.
Yep.
Basically across the board for 3 console generations. That sucks. If it is just I'm watching a number get bigger, I go to a new town and I just buy the one upgraded thing that does slightly more damage. What is the point? How is that different than just leveling up?
It's literally just necessary. It's a like an alternative advancement to grind for.
Yes. And does that feel good? I don't think so. You get a new sword. Every once in a while you get like the ancient sword and it maybe puts something to sleep, but that's really rare. I think that for a good economy, the game around it has to have a wide enough possibility space and verb set.
Yeah.
For something to feel cool. It can't just be, this whole problem is really tied up in that 0.3% frost damage bullshit.
Yeah.
Feel good.
I just
feel cool.
I
feel
just
powerful.
I literally just want fewer transactions, and I want for each of those transactions to mean much more.
Yes. I want fewer transactions, each of them to mean more, and people to be paid more for them and for them to look worse. And I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't need a frequency of treats. I want, I want it to be,
It's a big, huge moment for me in Feel Bad video game stuff. 2 of them I think about all the time. Leveled loot and procedural generation is a huge problem with this.
It's an immediate turnoff for me in a game.
Once you're not authoring, you're not making decisions based on these things. Two examples I think of a lot. The time I never beat it, but I played Borderlands 1 trying to get, because I thought it was going to be like Fallout. I thought it was more of an RPG.
Kind of sold itself as that for a little bit. Yeah,
it really did. Played that, beat a boss. It was hard to beat. Got a shitty gun that I couldn't really use at the end. That was just random. It had no story behind it. It was just a color of a gun. That sucks. Talked to Will. Me and Will were both playing Fallout 4 when we lived together. And he was like, yeah, I saw this like cool encounter on the coast. It was this lighthouse, but up at the top, instead of a light, there was a glowing ghoul. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. I was like, what'd you get when you got there? And you're like, level loot. Like, it's the second half of the story, I'm not like just looking for empowerment. Like when I'm saying I want to feel cool and feel powerful, it's not because I just want to have player power. It completes the narrative of what you're doing.
Yeah.
If Aloy goes and does something really, really difficult and is rewarded with a frost horn that she can then combine with some things and make a weapon you may or may not use that is an incremental upgrade, it lets down the story. The equation's not complete.
Why'd you do that thing?
Yeah.
Like that, going to there should make it so you can do something else that you could not otherwise do.
And there's a real like porque no los dos thing, because you could say the reason you did it is because it's content and you're playing. And the reason that Aloy did it is because she's a hero. But why not hit all of these pillars and make something like that stands up? Make a 3-legged stool, not a 2-legged stool.
A game we don't think about having, what kind of game we don't think about having an economy, but like what we're asking for kind of here is Zelda.
Zelda does have a good economy, actually, weirdly enough. The not Breath of the Wild ones. Yeah. Breath of the Wild has a bad economy. Like you go into a shrine, you do a bespoke puzzle. Sometimes you get these heart pieces, but sometimes there's just like a sword you'll get there and it's going to break in 2 hits and you're never going to use it. Like, say what you will about that whole system, but I don't think of that. And then you spend money entirely in like 2 places in the world on like 3 pieces of armor. Like, but in terms of old Zeldas, the reward structure was really great. Every time you got something in a dungeon, it was really meaningful. It's just having meaning to your things. I don't know if it's a Braino type thing where people can get off on 0.3% frost damage.
I think they can, and I also think people get off on like, oh, I got 1,000 for doing this as opposed to 1 or 10 or 100.
Yeah, they get tricked by pinball.
Yeah,
tricked by zeros, big number.
Which I don't want to. I really don't want to sound like I think I'm better than them. It's just that everybody has different weaknesses. It just doesn't work for me, and you see it everywhere.
To me, it feels like a thing that a game can work in spite of. everything is always connected. So like the constellation parts of this also attach to what type of game something is, right? Like if a game is going to you're just going to find random crap on the ground, the rest of the game is going to feel a little bit less authored if the rewards are just random garbage. That will have a less evocative, not evocative. It doesn't mean there's nothing to it, but it will be less evocative than finding like a storied sword in a cave. That tells you part of the story. Like look at like The Witcher 3, which I don't think has perfect economy or perfect loot, but you go and find the blueprints for the legendary Witcher gear in these bespoke dungeons. You'd go hunt them down, like you'd get a quest to go get them. You'd look up rumors and stuff. Like it was a complete story for that, and that game allowed for that kind of thing in a way that Horizon Zero Dawn, despite having a world that should allow for it, doesn't. Imagine if that you like gathered rumors and like, I hear of this old world thing in this cave, and you went and you found like a fucking blunderbuss. I don't know, like something, and then you saw the story of the people who were there, who left it there. I don't know. It's something about having a complete and satisfying arc to this aspect, to the reward aspect of video games.
Yeah. It's crafting has taken a real beating here, and I want to highlight like a version of this economy that I think really works. It's a game that came up before, Fallout 4. People take all kinds of dumps on Fallout 4. I am very much in the pro that game. Like I think it's good actually, and entirely because it makes searching a room and looking for garbage super valuable, because there might be glue, there might be something that can be turned into a meaningful mod. There might be something that can be made into something one of your settlements needs. Yeah. Right. And it does, like a grander version of what like the survival mode in Fallout New Vegas did, which is making finding water or food more important than just, I need a worse kind of healing here. It just makes it super meaningful to actually engage with the environments as they're designed. And that is what I want to do in those games, is scavenge.
I largely
one of the main things I want to do. Yeah, I
largely agree with that. It's weird that the crafting system in that game, I think, is actually pretty successful for what it's doing, especially compared to like bend over and pick up 10 elf fruit shit. And the economy itself is bad. Like finding a new store doesn't feel very good in that game. You do get one or two named guns that will have a random rolled up property. But then we're going back to proc gen as the problem with that. Get rid of that shit. How many times in that game did you like the crafting was really fun? I go into an office building, I find their supply closet. I know it's going to be full of duct tape and glue. That's awesome. That's meaningful in multiple avenues. And then you fight the boss of the dungeon and he gives you a fucking knee pad. And then it pops up with the legendary text, and it's like legendary knee pad. This gives you plus legends? 1 agility. Yeah, what legends?
What cultures whisper about these knee pads around the fire?
I hear it gives you plus 1 agility. It's a multifaceted thing. Like it feels like we're all over the place, but all of the stuff connects, and a game can live or die on certain parts of it.
Yeah, I mean, if games are, challenge and then surmounting, part of surmounting the other side of that is reward. And, the reward needs to be meaningful, and that needs to, launch you into taking on bigger stuff.
The reward has to be meaningful if there's going to be a reward. Like you look at something like there are intrinsic rewards. Like you look at like getting over it or something. That's just the reward of doing it. The problem are games that play at trying to give you a reward and then just give you, nonsense, give you a frost horn. If you're doing the equation, plug in good values for every element of the equation, or don't do the equation. That's a thing. In terms of like really good games that I think do this, we mentioned Baldur's Gate 3. I love how the Souls games do this. Generally, like you are almost always finding, like you do find just, especially in Elden Ring, you find it's a meme to find like the fucking, the Miranda bloom or whatever, like in a high level chest. That does happen. Much more often than not, though, you are finding cool weapons. Like they also, there's a wide variety of possibility. There's a lot of cool abilities that you can get in this. You're finding a weapon with a cool flavor, look, or story that even if you're not going to switch your build to it, you can imagine why somebody would.
Yes. Yeah. And that gets down to like pickup economy, which is what we talked about before. And, I think that the series has gotten a little bit worse about it since they added in Chalice Dungeon stuff and, crafting stuff. It's a little bit of a bummer to,
Agreed.
Find a nascent butterfly at the end of a long challenge kind of place. But also like talking about the economy in a Souls game is weird because like your experience is your money as well.
Which is really a cool part of it. Like that complicates and makes the economy cooler. Another aspect of this that I think is worth talking about, kind of just briefly, and this is part of the waving away boo birds. There's an element of pickup economy that happens that intersects with verisimilitude in an interesting way. Like if somebody's using a sword, should they drop a sword? And what I'll see are people who come from a type of game where they're used to vendor trash. Like if somebody drops something, I'm going to pick that up and sell it. And then they'll play something like Icewind Dale or something where every goblin drops a short sword. They're not worth picking up and selling.
No, not at all.
They drop them because that is going for, even with that limited tech, going for something a little bit of a verisimilituous world. Of course they would drop it. They had it in their hand, but also you don't need to pick up everything that's on the ground.
No, and learning to discern is an important part of play in that game. Knowing how to identify meaningful things to carry with you.
Yeah, Elder Scrolls does that as well.
Yeah,
the thing. Weirdly, Elder Scrolls not too bad at this. I think.
Nope.
I'm not always excited to go to a new shop in Elder Scrolls, other than to steal from it, which is fun and also economy. But in terms of like what they put at the end of dungeons and the project of discernment, in that is fun.
Yeah.
So, very passionate and angry about this whole thing. I want games to be so much better with this shit.
It's just intrinsic, right? Like if you're going to have the system, it should matter for the entire game. The reward should be meaningful. Like all of this is really basic game design stuff.
It feels like it is. And then yet the dominant mode is not treating it as such.
Yeah.
So the reason why this makes me feel like the last sane person on earth is because it all feels so obvious and evident to me. Like why wouldn't you do it this way? Why on earth would you ever do it like Borderlands? Like I get a random sniper rifle.
It's not like nobody points this stuff out. We're not the only people who have made the daring point to say Mass Effect's economy is kind of shit.
Yeah.
Like it is out there. That criticism is in the blood.
Yeah. And it just doesn't get, it does not get iterated upon or changed. Like you play a Borderlands and they might change some of the tables, but like at the end of the day, having it be a slot machine with random properties is easier and becomes a meme bullet point. 4,000 guns just became 4,000 or whatever their, Borderlands 2 advertising campaign was.
Blah.
What a fucking bummer. I don't know, man. It makes me so mad. It genuinely is just like, this is wasting my goddamn time. This sucks so bad.
I don't want people to think when I call this a really basic part of game design. Basic does not mean easy.
No.
Like, oh, why don't these idiot lazy devs just solve this problem? It's so easy. Duh. No, basic is hard.
Yes.
Basic is important. It's a foundation for the thing. And, you should, before you do anything else, you need your foundation to be good.
Yeah.
Like,
and tons of games don't engage with this at all. And those aren't the games we're talking about. Like intrinsic reward is different. It's just if you're going to have extrinsic, and some people, God bless them, just very different, not in non-derogatory, like different game types. Like I've seen people go to bat for the Neo inventory system before, like the loot pinata of colored things that you just, it's going to drop a lot of things you don't want. You're just going to pick up the ones that shine in a specific way. And to you, that is good. There is a Braino type that has that, but I just want to put myself in a CAT scan and then them in a CAT scan and just see what the differences are. Not because I'm trying to study somebody like they're in a jar, but just to define Gary. Like whatever that quality is that you're responding to in that, I just don't have it at all.
Yeah.
And I want to know what it is. I want to name it.
I see you getting so much joy from these simple things. And you just,
here's a ball. You can bounce it. No, like it's not even a simple thing. Like there's just a joy in that I just don't think that I just don't understand how to enjoy it. I don't know what's good about it.
Yeah.
And articulating what's good about things is important to me. Like, the other thing that will come up in this whenever I'm like, the economy in this thing, you'll hear like, you can ignore it. Or,
why?
Yeah. Why is it there? Why? Yeah, you can ignore it, but why do I want to have a thing in the game that's calling my attention that I can safely ignore? That's not adding anything. Either you can ignore it or like, I didn't mind it, and it's just like, we could do more. We could ask for more than that,
Yeah.
I don't know. Go nail these theses to the forehead of Jeff Keighley. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Anywho.
Yeah. So let's get back into, let's do the responses.
Yeah.
Responses to the games we played. A lot about Mass Effect. Mm-hmm. Oh, good.
Yeah, just Mass Effect and Slayer's X. I was just going to name them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A ton of people wrote in about Mass Effect. If we didn't include yours, it's just because we had a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Also, some of these were edited down because they were a little bit lengthy. Hope you understand. I'll get us started here with Corey, who says, I recently tried a Mass Effect 1 revisit and simply could not. Listening to your recap was a far more satisfying revisit of a game that is more conservative and less entertaining in 2023 than Babylon 5. Have you listened to A More Civilized Age, Austin Walker's Star Wars podcast? They're playing through KOTOR 1, and the consensus amongst critics who actually have to play through these games in modern times seems to be that BioWare's transition to consoles is fairly ugly mechanically and narratively. Agreed there. I've not listened to the show, but I can see it.
Yeah. Austin's a smart person. It'd be weird if he came away with a different, that seems obvious to me. I haven't listened to that as a non-Star Wars guy. I knew that they were covering KOTOR
because of the strike.
Because of the strike. And maybe I will use that instead of playing KOTOR 1 when I eventually try to get off my ass and play KOTOR 2.
Yes.
Through that.
Probably wise.
Yeah. I am glad that I was worried they were going to talk a lot of sugar about it as Star Wars fans.
Yeah.
And I just like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, that's going to fall on, deaf ears for me because I don't find Star Wars particularly interesting or cool, Yeah. But I have not heard it either, but good recommendation there.
Yeah.
Jonathan says, my main memory from Mass Effect is one of regret and realization. I romanced Ashley despite her being not great because video game. She ended up killing Rex, and I was shocked. Never had I seen such a drastic conflict between party members. While I initially forgave her because she was Shepard's romance, I eventually realized she sucked and dropped her ass in Mass Effect 2. I decided to avoid romancing characters just because video game, until I made a similar mistake romancing somebody in the mediocre cast of Persona 5. Fuck. Yeah, just romancing because video game. Don't do it.
You gotta mean it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Romances in video games, hard to do.
Very hard.
Yeah.
Somebody should do a topics on that.
Yeah. Somebody did.
We have.
If Ashley killed my Rex, I would not have liked Ashley. I didn't like Ashley anyway, but I would have been frustrated by that as well.
I mean, at least Ashley killing your Rex happens before you decide whether you want her or 404 to die.
Yeah.
So you could just
You'd
let her die as revenge.
Mission. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then keep 404 character not found on your team. So
Autumn writes, I was really into the sci-fi elements of the first Mass Effect. I liked how the discovery of Element Zero and Mass Effect fields were woven into the plot and the mechanics. Maybe the cooldown guns weren't that interesting for gameplay, but it felt meaningfully different from other shooters. Other shooters that I was playing at the time. I was disappointed when Mass Effect 2 went back to ammo clips, but I guess it fixed a lot of other stuff. Also, I was a part of the fandom during the backlash to the Mass Effect 3 ending. I remember it being pretty kind for how emotional people were. It certainly didn't have the virulent bile or greedy dev, lazy dev sentiment of the Andromeda backlash. And it wasn't a harassment campaign like Gamergate. Maybe I was only seeing a small part of it. Personally, I like that devs can change and update their games, including their stories.
It's been,
I never went back and played Mass Effect 3 after they changed gave you a better ending on that. So
it's been fun to see the discourse around that, in the Slack and stuff, since we did Mass Effect 1, people talking about the series and talking about 3. As somebody who lived, through the Mass Effect 3 ending backlash, but did not have the context for it.
Yes.
Opinions are very wide ranged in that, even just reasonable ones. Obviously the people who lost their minds are probably overreacting a little bit, but even just kind of measured responses are all over the place with that. It's almost enough to make me curious. The other thing that's interesting is them going back to clips. The other thing I've seen, and we'll probably see at least a little bit of it in these responses. If not, we definitely got some responses that we ended up cutting for time. But the people who are like, no, Mass Effect 2 did not, like, those changes are bad. I've seen that response a few times. And as something to go to bat for Mass Effect 1, I don't respect it. As a general, like, this is less interesting because it is more of a straight putt. Like a better version of the thing it is, but the thing it's trying to be is a less interesting thing. I kind of
that's
buy
a valid
that.
criticism.
Yeah. I buy that.
There's at least one. I can't remember if we included it, but
I see that, and several people in the Slack have mentioned similar things to that. It's just interesting, Bob from St. Louis says, I want to share a story that I always think about every time Mass Effect comes up. My younger brother was playing through Mass Effect after I had played through it close to the original release. His favorite character ended up being Rex. He got to the part where Rex can die unless you save him with one of the upgraded conversation talents, and found that he did not have enough points in those skills to save him. He was extremely upset by this, almost to the point of tears. He tried reloading the save, but he did not have one far enough back to gain and redistribute enough skill points. I scoured the internet for anything that would help my younger brother and discovered an interesting fact. In the original game, experience rewards, while in the Mako, were severely penalized at 50% on normal level. The earlier part of that level is a Mako section. We reloaded a save and went through that level without the Mako. Doing so provided him with just enough XP to level up a few times and choose the talent to save Rex. It was an incredible moment as a big brother that I remember to this day. Only possible through dog shit game design, but very kind.
Bad game design, good brother moment.
Yeah,
that's that's very sweet of you to have done. Yes,
It's when people I know that the experience points were more sparse in the non-legendary edition. People not having enough conversation points to do the conversation things in this is always surprising to me, because there's one social skill. Like you
have to pick. Yeah.
You do have to pick between one of two. But once you do, you just have one non-combat skill you can put points into. It's not a wide skill field or anything.
No. What sucks is, like, when I first played this, I couldn't save Rex because I thought that charm and intimidate would be useful in different situations.
Yeah.
Because
it presents it leveling them. Because that's how RPGs work. Right?
It's too. Yeah, like, RPGs work, like, if you have a conversation choices, it seems like which one of those you pick should matter.
Yes.
And you're looking at it and thinking, oh, this person won't respond to charm, but intimidate will work on them, because that's how video games should work.
It's how BioWare video games worked up until a certain point. Like, it's not a role-playing game. I cannot stress this enough. It has nothing to do with a role-playing game. Very funny moment during Duckstream. We were talking about it and somebody mentioned it in the thing and asked me a question. And I was like, yeah, it's not a role-playing game. And somebody in the chat was like, play Mass Effect 2 and 3 and then tell me that. And I'm like, and I'm not trying to call them out or make fun of them or anything, but it's just like,
in relative terms.
Yeah, in relative terms, sure. Mini golf is more of a role-playing game than tic-tac-toe in relative terms. It still doesn't make it a role-playing game though. Like the way that it lies to you as having a binary choice system, when it's really just pick a lane for the beginning, like, is just, God, it's a frustrating system.
Yeah.
What does Manny say?
Manny says, listening to y'all hate on 404 Character Not Found really spoke to me. He might be my personal worst companion in any RPG. It's not only that he's milquetoast, it's that I couldn't really talk to him without fear of him trying to get with me. I always chose Girl Boss Shepard, and playing through the Legendary Edition with my wife, she would keep saying, he's kind of creepy and I think he's hitting on you. I initially brushed it off as general NPC dialogue, but unfortunately, I think I kept choosing the wrong things to say to him, and suddenly he's trying to sleep with me? What the fuck, man? You're no Garrus. Certainly not a Rex. Why would I give you the time of day, my dude? Having headaches attached to trauma, but nothing more, does not a good partner make. I already knew that women have to deal with dudes thinking that they're hitting on them when they're just being kind, but this is the only game where I felt it. Didn't even talk to Not Found after he started making advances, just because I cared enough to ask about his stupid backstory, and I'm glad he's dead. Anyway, thanks for keeping up the amazing content. Love y'all.
Have you heard the good news about Gale of Waterdeep?
He's better now, kind of.
He's been patched, but that's the same experience I had with that, where I was like, oh, this is what it's like to be a woman around fuckboys. They just nonstop are just like, I thought we were going somewhere with this.
At least they made him a fuckboy in the fiction too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, not a sympathetic headache man. Yeah. That having the main thing I want for any future all CRPGs going forward, but also for Larian, is to have more solid friendship options. Yes. Like be able to tell somebody firmly, like, I just don't see that happening, and have it not shunt them into sad mode, and then just spend equal time developing a friendship.
Yeah.
Friendship relationships are very special and also hard to do in games. So, but good on you for killing him, Caden. Every universe, I have to Comstock him. I had to drown him in every universe in a baptismal pool. Patrick says, if I had to pick just one thing to dig into, I want to talk about the planets. There are dozens of explorable worlds for Shepard and the crew to go to. Each one has a little in-universe encyclopedia entry, as well as its own slightly different color palette and arrangement of lens flares. They're also populated by a total of about 3 different building models and enemy types across the entire game, and are filled with completely useless disposable loot. These empty landscapes are one of the most glaring flaws in a game full of friction points, and I think they're one of the best choices the developers made. To me, those empty spaces are part of why this world feels real. Instead of endless gray hallways and monster closets, to me, it felt like a believable living place because it has moments of beauty and mystery, and yes, boredom. Sometimes you explore a new world and find it devoid of anything but a pretty view. Other times, following a distress call might lure you into the jaws of the dune worm's rave enthusiast cousin. You don't know what you'll find, and that's what's special. One of my favorite moments was driving across a mostly empty green world and stumbling upon a bunch of alien monkeys sitting around a giant metal sphere. This scene isn't part of the quest line. Neither the codex nor the other characters know what the orb is, or where it came from. Sure, it's a riff on 2001: A Space Odyssey, but it also opens the door to a whole universe of questions and possibilities. And it's just left there without comment for the few players who find it to stop and think about. When you spend the sequels running from one gunfight to a next, you lose that sense of wonder. It's the quiet between incidents that hammers home the feeling of being just a tiny, curious speck in a vast and mysterious galaxy. The space between the action where Mass Effect is more than just another story about Guy Whitey shoot good in space. And I think it's a hugely underappreciated part of what makes Mass Effect so good and so singular. That's very well said, and I disagree really hard with that. The proportions are really off. Yeah. In that, like, if those, I'm not saying that, like, the monkey encounter wouldn't be special if there were lots of them. I shouldn't have to scour almost every planet that I can to find things like that. And the number of planets that don't have a pretty view or a monkey encounter, but instead just have combat hallways was, there was a preponderance of those in my experience. It wasn't empty space. It was filler space. Like, it wasn't a quiet moment. It all felt
so the same.
Yeah. I also think that, again, the layouts of the planets and stuff, like, this encyclopedia entry and art direction did not do any lifting for me on the planets. Like, there weren't interesting things to explore on the planets, you know, and even then, like, if I wanted interesting in a mundane way things, either there wasn't that. Like, yes, you could go down there, but they didn't put anything down there almost all the time. And then, so like half the time there's nothing. Fully, 33% of the time it's just combat hallways. And then the tiny last, 17% or whatever is where you get your monkey encounters. That is a lot of work and a lot of nothing to find the monkey encounter. Like, I feel like Mass Effect is one of the more dead worlds I've ever explored in a video game. It feels like there's, 50 people who live in the entire universe in that game.
Yeah. It's just it's a basic, juice versus squeeze. problem.
It's a proportions thing. Like in principle, I also like the idea of having incident be rare so it feels special in that thing. I think the balance is really hard to work with.
Yeah.
And personally, for me, Mass Effect did not get it. Yeah. So I could see missing it in like the sequel if it was something, that makes sense to me. But I there's just got to be better examples of that have done it. If this is the best that can be, then that's not, it hasn't been realized yet.
Yeah.
Potential.
No Man's Sky? Question mark?
Maybe.
Yeah.
But that was my at least impression early on, but that's been patched so often it's not even the same game. Anymore. Like I was kind of interested in that when it came out and watched a lot of stuff on it. I didn't want to take the plunge because of time until I knew about it. And it was the same thing. It was like, I'm going to go to a different color palette with a different kind of little plant guy. And like, that's a randomly rolled color and plant guy is not good enough for me. I can just do that in my imagination before I go to bed. Yeah. I have an iPod in my brain.
Naveen writes, being a grown adult, I try to think that I'm too old to care about other people's video game opinions. But if I'm being honest with myself, my heart hurt a little hearing you guys not liking Mass Effect. To be clear, that's totally not on you, but entirely on me for keeping this game close to my heart. From the initial trailer showing Shepard having a conversation with a Solarian bartender, complete with the dialogue wheel, I knew that I had to get an Xbox 360 to play this game. And when it arrived in 2007, it did not disappoint. I had long enjoyed BioWare games, but this felt like a huge step up in presentation and tone. The universe the universe it built out was greater than the sum of its parts. And I spent hours scouring wikis to learn ever more about the various alien races, their politics, and the mysteries of the galaxy. The various shortcomings of the game did not bother me one bit, as the vision put forth of a daring new sci-fi universe more than outweighed inventory tax or crappy shooter controls. In the years since, I've come back to Mass Effect repeatedly. Despite advances in gameplay design, technology, and technically superior sequels, I played through the original game at least a half dozen times. My most recent playthrough was when the remaster came out, and it still held up. Yes, the shooting still isn't great, and yes, the environments are still bland and lifeless. But when the synth soundtrack hits and the horizon of a planet fades into a title drop, I still get chills. I can't defend it logically, and you guys were more than fair in assessing the game, but it's still an all-timer to me. Happy to turn in my discerning gamer card on this one, but there's a hot new club in the Zakara Award, and my shep is ready to boogie.
Yeah, the thing about them ineffables is they're ineffable.
Yeah.
Ineffables do be uneffable, though.
Yeah. And there's no card to turn in.
Yeah. It's not really a thing. It's just like if liking something in a way that you cannot describe is fine.
Yeah.
Like this part is bad, but there's something about it that really works for me, is really natural and human and good. It's just non-transferable. It's charm. It's a concept like, say what you will about something awful and like its impact on everything. A concept that I find useful is the everything nothing concept behind that, which is like you'd post something and it's a thing that means everything to you, but would mean nothing to somebody else. And it exists in this quantum superposition as both. Like there's no way for me to experience those chills.
Yeah.
It just wasn't there at the time. Don't have the chill antibodies, or don't have the chill DNA to experience those chills for that.
And we've got a term for this. Just let me have this.
Yeah.
This, the Mass Effect is a just let me have this game for you.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. Guy says, I was absolutely thrilled to hear you're doing Mass Effect. And one thing in the episode really stuck out to me. I think Gary might have been complaining about something being watered down, and Cole said something like this game probably, quote, introduced a whole cohort of players to a new genre of game. I think my first RPGs were Morrowind and Fable, but I had never played a game which put so much emphasis on your companions. Even my 13-year-old self could tell the mechanics of the game weren't great, and all I had played were Gears of War the year prior. but I just didn't care. The story absolutely hooked me, and I couldn't wait until the next story beat. And I couldn't wait to have those after-mission conversations with your companions. I really felt like I bonded with them. Now, expand that into 3 games, and imagine my surprise in Mass Effect 3 when you run into Ashley for the first time, and she's pissed that I spent the last game hooking up with Tali. Watching the decisions you made play out across 3 games was immensely satisfying. It was immensely satisfying. It wasn't until after I played KOTOR that I realized BioWare ripped themselves off for this first game. But again, I'm not sure I care. Mass Effect is my favorite game series of all time, beating out games I think are better, simply because I had never been so engrossed by game world as I am with the Mass Effect series in my teens. Garrus will always be my boy. Again, the thing where, like, in addition to not being able to transfer charm, you can't transfer first blush.
Nope.
You know?
I mean, Guy's experience was basically mine.
Yeah. You know, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's just no transfer, right? So, like, to put a companion, the thing I think companions are probably the thing BioWare is best at. As a company, I don't think is very good. I think that they do a good job with companions generally. You know, I'm also coming at this, like, I was comparing, you know, my point of reference was like Sulik and Mort. Yeah. You know, who you also have these relationships with and have these ongoing storylines, but like, then there's no superiority in this. You know, it's just when I was exposed, like, I can't have that reactivity with Ashley showing up feel very impressive to me when I have done all of the Unbroken Circle of Zerthamon shit with Dakan.
Yeah.
You know, that is so much deeper and cooler and weirder and more reactive. Like, it matters more what I'm doing in that. Like, the relationship is really interesting. It's more than just like a jealousy. You know, I just was coming at it from higher heights. So I think, like, introducing you to the idea of characters that you could care about is valuable as a thing, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that's really it. Like, I don't know. And again, you can't transfer. This was the first time I saw this,
right?
You know, as a thing. Yeah.
Vin writes, "Hey, Paisans. I played Mass Effect."
As Captain
Vin writes, "Hey, Paisans."
There we go.
I played Mass Effect about a decade late, but when I finally booted up the trilogy, I fully expected it to be my jam. Dragon Age in space? Sounds great! The enthusiasm did not last. I realized within the first couple of hours that beneath the generally sharp dialogue was a foundation of narrative choices that felt more and more questionable as the game went on. The main threat was an aggressively faceless apocalyptic force, strapped to a menacing but bland villain to give the player someone to be mad at. It's a familiar sci-fi trope, presented in a way that I found distractingly transparent. Meanwhile, there's a weird undercurrent of neoconservatism. Notably, the way the civilian government, with its big UN vibes, is portrayed as being too squeamish and fickle to do what needs to be done, necessitating a special military branch that can enact violence without regard for law or oversight. This was off-putting to find, explicitly as text, in a game that was released during the throes of the Bush administration. But surely the companions will be good, I thought. That's where the juice is. Again, things didn't quite hold up. Sure, everyone knows that Ashley is a shitty racist, and even Raphael Sabarge can't make Caden interesting. But Garrus? Yes, Garrus has charisma, but also he's a bad cop, like in an ACAB sense, who ditches the force to join you because, again, civilian oversight is cramping his style. He goes on to enlist the player in some extrajudicial killings in Mass Effect 2. Rex, meanwhile, is fun, but the warrior race shtick is already tired, and Krogans, unlike Klingons, aren't really given a culture beyond belligerence. Liara is there, and Tali, you're cool. You can stay. But the thing that really clinched it, the final nail in the coffin of my esteem, that came when I was doing laps around my ship and I realized that every single member of my crew of hardened interstellar professionals was going to tell me about their dads. I learned that Garrus's dad was a cop, and Ashley comes from a long line of racists, so it's okay. I learned that Tally's dad was an admiral senator, and Liara's dad was her mom, and her mom was Marina Sirtis. I don't know who Marina Sirtis is.
That's Troy from Star Trek Next Generation.
Gotcha. Okay. Who was also the queen. By the time Rex was telling me
I don't know. How did I miss that? I would have dined on this in the episode if I realized everyone talked about their dads.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
By the time Rex was telling me that he had killed his dad in a coup and was now technically king or some shit, my eyes had rolled so far back in my head that I was looking at yesterday. Talk to a therapist, Mass Effect, or at least buy a second screenwriting book. Anyway, love you guys, and thanks for letting me vent my deeply held and deeply unpopular Mass Effect takes. You're in line with this, Vin.
Yeah.
I told you that on my streams.
Yeah. I'm with you. Ludicrous stuff.
It is very funny that it is a parade of dads.
It's a parade of dads and a pro-Bush, a pro-Bush polemic about doing what it takes as, Jack Bauer in a world, a fight on terror.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Bizarre.
Woof.
This is the other thing I've seen people talk about, not liking the sequels as much because when they came to a political awakening between them. They played Mass Effect 1 and they weren't really aware of that kind of thing. And then they played the later ones and were like, oh, I am like an extrajudicial killing machine, and that's not necessarily cool,
right.
As a thing to be. One of the things like talking about the aliens in this is how the aliens, other than a couple of the NPC aliens, are basically weird headgear aliens.
Yeah.
Like it's strange how much these just feel like fantasy races, as opposed to anything truly alien.
Asari are elves.
Yeah.
Krogan are orcs. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly that. Like the reason why it just feels like, oh shit, it's another noble warrior race is because that's what fantasy has been doing forever.
Yeah.
The reason why the Reapers end up feeling like a big, faceless, unstoppable force is because it's the fucking Blight. They just did it.
Yeah.
It's the Borg, it's the Blight. Like these are
the Blight came after this.
Yeah.
This was 2007. The Dragon Age was 2009.
I always forget that. But it's or the God, what is the there's another one they did in one of the, not in Jade Empire, but in KOTOR, if I remember. That's not just the dark side. I don't remember what it is, but it's just fantasy cliches, and the aliens don't feel that alien to me. Like, is there anything about the Tali, that race being on an armada in space that is unique that they couldn't be in like a sea armada as a thing and just be transferred to fantasy? Like we live in we're a cool water culture of refugees and Romani, and we have to go to a pilgrimage and we live in a big flotilla.
Yeah. I mean, not really.
Not really.
Not that I can think of.
Yeah.
Something about the fact that they have to be in those suits or whatever.
Sure.
Like even more isolated, like even more like noticeable. They can't integrate.
Yeah. They had to wear a mask. There's nothing with Krogans that couldn't just be an orc. They're remarkably unalien aliens, which is part of the lineage, is taking the Star Wars approach, Star Trek approach of stuff glued on head, meaning alien.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just, it feels the same to me. Yeah. Final response here from Mike, friend of the show, Mike, who writes for GameCritics.com. Says, Mass Effect released at the perfect moment for me when I was 17 and spending all of my free time in school reading sci-fi books. The game, in many ways, felt like a novel where I didn't need to imagine the world being described to me. The richness and detail of this universe and its history, as well as its most sturdy commitment to honoring the science part of science fiction, felt unprecedented for a AAA console game at the time. I also just love the story. To my mind, it's one of the few cases in video games where the stakes feel as high as we're told that they are. The fact that its main campaign is short enough that it can be revisited in one, admittedly lengthy session, has made this my favorite, rainy day favorite throughout the years. One session. All that said, Mass Effect wasn't perfect in 2007, and it shows its age more with every revisit. My biggest criticism has always been the morality slider. Even putting aside the precariousness of categorizing every decision as a binary good or evil, the main issue for me is that the fact that certain critical persuasion options are only available if the player has maxed out their morality slider in one direction or another. It means you're encouraged to make only one decision right at the start of the game. Am I playing a Paragon or Renegade? This system is a carryover from KOTOR, and I think it works better in that game because the Star Wars universe already has a binary morality system built right into it. But in Mass Effect, I want to be able to weigh some of these choices individually, and I'm never able to, because I'm always tied to whichever polarity I've committed to on a particular run. I love the game and I love BioWare, but I'm glad that this particular trend went away.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a bad morality system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you're right that it could just be at character creation. The fact that it doesn't do that is actually kind of a nasty trick.
I mean, it's like I said before, like when you thought that charm and intimidate were going to be different, you know, like just useful in different situations, you know, it is a hand wave that can fuck you out of characters.
It can literally, you can lose a character out of it. You know, like I played, you know, primarily as a renegade, but I didn't do every renegade action because there were certain ones that were stupid. So I didn't end up maxing out that thing, and I didn't need to. Turned out I didn't have to for whatever invisible meters I had doing there to save Rex, but I would have been frustrated if the fact that I didn't kill all of the plant zombies, the colonists on the plant zombie plant, meant I couldn't save Rex because my intimidate wasn't strong enough. Like that just, I don't know any other word for it. That's just really bad game design.
Yeah.
You know,
dirty pool.
Dirty pool. Like I understand people going to bat for the story and ineffable qualities of this. There are so many elements of the game design that just feel like critically flawed, you know, absolutely toxically, critically flawed to me.
Yeah.
Evidently so.
And I don't see a lot of people going to bat for the morality system in this. I see people saying, "Oh, this particular moment was cool as a result of a moral choice."
Yeah,
that's really what it is.
What they're really going to bat for a lot of times are performances and presentation.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of it, and gamers love presentation as a thing. Like, you know, I get it, but it's always going to be a thing. Like how this is presented, if it's a charismatic voice actor doing a good job and it's pretty, will always do a lot of work for something. I think. Let's move on to Slayer's X responses.
Let's do. Yeah. Start with Gordon. Gordon says, a little while ago, I wrote in about my guilt for accidentally manslaughtering Zane in Hypnospace because I wanted more Hypno coins. So when a trailer appeared and Zane announced, "You thought you killed me," I experienced the most bizarre sense of relief and absolution. I hadn't killed him. It was all a terrible mistake. And though the secrets you find in the game, through the secrets you find in the game, you get to see what the outcome of this life that nearly wasn't. You get to see the outcomes of this life that nearly wasn't. So many games would have shown Zane becoming some kind of Superman because that's what so much of media says is the only kind of life that mattered. But it's completely ordinary and crappy in some ways. But it's still great in that way the Hypnospace thinks people's lives are great and loves them, and loves all of the idiosyncrasies in them. If Dream Settler keeps that heart, then I think we're in for something very special indeed.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
It
is the necessary thing to make all of this work.
Yes.
Is the heart.
Yep, I think so. Otherwise, I mean, it'd be, you know, Y2K at Postmodern Adventure or whatever. You know, like you could do something that is online and of a time and miss that, and it could be insufferable. And finally, Elliot says, Zane is what you get if Duke Nukem and Lo Wang had a polite child. This was a great callback to 2.5D shooters. It pays excellent homage to its predecessors in terms of level design and aesthetic. Carnivals, burger shops, moving trains, neighborhoods. I felt like I was 6 again playing Blood or Shadow Warrior. I also really appreciated Zane reminding me that my S-Blade has a hack blood charge. Still not quite sure what this does. Not too much more to say about this. You can't fix a recipe that ain't broke. I am happy for all grandmas and moms who got it with Zane. Got with your grandma.
Yeah. You know, I'm even happy for all of the dumb grandpas out there.
Yeah. Your grandpa's dumb. Yeah. If you have not, Elliot, play Dusk.
Do it.
Yeah, Dusk is great. You will also like Dusk, I think. Yeah. This episode's running real long. It's, we answered a lot of questions and stuff. Let's get on to our responses here. Or no, I'm sorry. Let's fuck, man.
Gary.
Yeah. That's bad. Let me walk you through the process of that. I closed that tab. Then it's like, okay, now I have to open up the tab for responses now, which was the tab I just closed. I'm feeling hale and hearty here. We've been recording for a long time.
Yeah. No, now it's time for us to say,
yes. Now time to end good.
Now time to end good.
Yes.
Good things come up. Yes. So those were responses to December's games. You have until January the 15th to write in about January's games, which, to remind you, are The Case of the Golden Idol, Darkest Dungeon 2, and Blasphemous 2. Blasphemous 2 being our premium episode. You do that at duckfeed.tv/contact. If you have thoughts about multiple games, write them in as multiple responses, and keep your responses brief, as in like 2 paragraphs or so. We broke the rule a little bit here this time because Mass Effect inspires thoughts.
Yep.
But brief and specific.
Yeah. Looking at February's games, it is a Gary month. Gary is picking for the first thing, Crazy Taxi.
Yeah.
Yes. So we talked about doing for a long time. We don't do a lot of things from the Dreamcast era, or that's the system I primarily played this on. Excited to talk about it. It should be a shorter episode. You'll know why we're doing that short when we get to our premium. After that, we're doing the adventure game Unavowed, something I'd heard really previously mentioned on this episode. Austin Walker, big fan of that. Big shout out. This is a premium episode for Andrew. Was gotten as a gift from his husband, Ed. Go Ed.
Fantastic.
Ed. Merry Christmas, Andrew.
Yeah. And then our premium game is going to be Age of Empires 2.
Yeah. New territory. We've done things that are kind of adjacent to that, but this is the first one of those specifically. Masters of Orion 2 is probably the closest thing we've done to something like that. Yeah. In terms of structuring that for the premium, generalities will be the mechanics, and then we'll tell the stories of our campaigns. Yeah. Basically, and kind of the end game and everything in that. I don't know that episode is going to be very long, but it's going to require a lot of playtime.
Yes.
So to get a handle on it.
Yeah. And we're going to be playing whatever re-release happens. There's like a modernized version with some quality of life, and just this runs good now.
Yes.
Kind of on it.
Yep. Yeah. That was sponsored by Abe. So thank you, Abe.
Yes. Thank you.
We have both of those people have used our new Patreon sponsored episode system.
Reviews are positive on it.
Yeah, people seem to like it. We are just officially, in case anybody asks, we are waiting to see how this works out on our end before we consider changing the abject suffering dictation to that. But they've changed it on Patreon. You just go to a shop now and you purchase the sponsorship. You'll get all the information about that when you do it. But that is, so if you've been holding back because it's a little bit complicated to change your pledge level, change it back, all that jazz, you no longer have to.
Yeah. So we're booking out into Q2 right now.
Yeah. What else? Cool.
Go check out Real Lich Hours.
Oh yeah.
New show on the network talking about Baldur's Gate 3. Ton of Baldur's Gate 3 chat in this episode because I think it's, on our minds. We have a whole show about that. A few episodes available for free to everybody, so spread that around. reallichhours.com, and in the new year it is going premium.
Yes.
So that is going to be for patrons. So check it out.
Yeah. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict, generally, but then also specifically Real Lich Hours. Check out all of our shows if you go to Duckfeed.tv. And big thanks to Gwen, our producer.
Thank you, Gwen.
We really appreciate her.
Yeah, ending the first year with her on board, and it's been great.
Absolutely. Yeah, and happy holidays, or I hope you had a happy holiday.
Yeah, we're right around there.
President's Day is right around the corner. There's always a holiday.
Some holiday. Yeah. But have fun and be safe.
Yes.
In the new year.
Yeah. And we'll see you next week with Case of the Golden Idol, which I always want to call Curse of the Golden Idol and think it should be called that.